Hello everybody, welcome to the Traction and RaceRoom YouTube channels and welcome to the first ranked event on RaceRoom here in 2025. We're here for the 2.4 hours of Daytona. Not quite the 24 that we had last weekend in the real world, but still a fantastic endurance race all the same. I'm Chaz Draycott and I'm delighted to be joined by Tom Cairns for this event. We're going to be commentating on all of the action from start to finish for you and hopefully guiding you through what is going to be a brilliant race. And Tom, it's going to be a huge challenge. Like I say, not quite the full 24 here, but still 2.4 hours with just one driver at the wheel. It's a big old challenge, isn't it, around here?
I think there's going to be one driver for the whole 24 hours. I think there'll be a few energy drinks going around between each and every one of them. But for them, it's just the 2.4 hours, 2 hours and 24 minutes to be exact, in case you're wondering why the 0.4 is there. But they're going to be in for a very enduring evening, that's for absolutely sure. Race strategy coming into the fray as well. We've got two classes, in case you want. We've got the DPi class involving the Mazda, which is going to be used. And there is a multiple manufacturers involved in the GT3 class. You've got the Lamborghini Huracan GT3 Evo 2, you've got the Ferrari 296 GT3, you've got the Porsche 911 GT3R, the Audi R8 LMS GT3 Evo 2, the BMW M4 GT3, the Mercedes AMG, and the McLaren 720S. A variety, it's safe to say. And if there was one manufacturer out of those GT3s in particular, which one springs or attracts you the most, would you say, Chaz?
I mean, the AMG, the Mercedes AMG GT3 has been a stalwart since day one of GT3 racing for me. Every single time I've seen it on screen or seen any of the world's many GT3 championships, that Merc has always been right up there near the sharp end. It's a very proven formula, it's a very successful car, and regardless of how many iterations of Audis, Lamborghinis, McLarens we get, that Merc is always there, and I think it's great to see it still going strong all these years in. What about you?
Yeah, I would go with the Merc as well, because whenever I look at that Merc, it reminds me of the Formula 1 safety car that was brought in 2010 instead of the previous Mercedes-Benz model that you used to have. And that's the very first thing that comes into my mind. And I do like the McLaren as well. I mean, I like all of them, it's safe to say. And I can't wait to see them all out on circuit for the race to come in a short while.
Yeah, the GT3 category is one of the most exciting in the world, all based pretty much on supercars. You know, the M4 is probably the least supercar-esque in there, but, I mean, it's like a housing estate on wheels. BMW always have this natural given gift of being able to make big race cars really successful. Look back to the likes of the M6 many years ago that won the Nürburgring 24 hours, the M8s that used to compete in IMSA and over at the Le Mans 24 hours as well. But, you know, they go up against smaller, more nimble cars like the Lamborghini Huracan, which is the newest car of the lot to come to RaceRoom. It arrived in the 2024 DTM DLC pack quite recently, so a lot of the drivers have been, by the look of it, Tom, spending time getting used to that car and getting it to the top of the times in this session here today.
And all eyes will be on the Mazda RT24P DPi. And looking at that livery there in the Japanese colours, I quite like it. They'll all have the different liveries, of course, but it's a phenomenal machine. It's a brilliant car. I mean, any DPi car is fantastic, but this Mazda, there's something unique about it. With you look at the front engine of it, or the front section of the car with the way the nose is sectioned, you look at the rear wing after. It's the kind of Mazda you would drive around all day on whichever conditions that you're racing in as well.
Definitely, and it's an interesting race car because when you see a prototype like that, you'd expect it to have a massive lumping V8 in the back of it, or, you know, a very nimble and high screaming V10, but it's only a 2-litre 4-cylinder engine. It's turbocharged, of course, to give it plenty more warmth, but it's just not the usual noise you'd expect from a prototype of that caliber. And, you know, I think it's going to be exciting to see how it gets on. It's not a car that we see very often at the moment in the modern endurance racing, so it's great to see it honoured here in the RaceRoom 2.4 hours of Daytona. We're going to do that a lot tonight. But what about, Tom, a lap around this circuit in said Mazda RT24?
Absolutely, Chaz. Let's go for a lap of this 5.7 kilometre road course of Daytona in this new Mazda. So through the front stretch, and turn one catches you out very, very easily if you get it wrong and miss your turning point or your steering point, but it nails it here past the tyre barrier on the left hand side, and you go through the sections of turn 2, even though it's 2 corners, but by the Americans they call it turn 2, and then through the Rodriguez International Horseshoe turn 3, you brake, and then as you hit the apex, apply the throttle, and then use off the runoff on the exit without touching the grass on the outside. You eventually get towards Dogleg. You can go through here flat out, no problem, using the curb on the left hand side, and then you brake in a straight line for the West Horseshoe of turn 5, and then just like on the previous horseshoe, you apply the throttle on the apex. And then coming towards turn 6, it's a longer hairpin here, but this is where you need to gain all the exit speed possible before you go back around the oval section at an angle of 31 degrees, this banking of Daytona, which is quite phenomenal when you look at it. It looks at a higher angle when you see it, but it is 31 degrees according to our stats. So through the backstretch we come, and then it's the Le Mans chicane. It's like a slalom section. It's like left, right, and then right, left. You can see that black barrier in the background. That kind of is your reference point before you decelerate through the first part of the chicane and then apply the throttle ready for the second part without dropping it on the exit. And then just like on the previous hairpin of turn 6, it's vitally important you get all the speed all the way through the banking and then towards the front stretch again. And that rounds off a lap of this road course of Daytona.
Yeah, it's a fantastic race circuit, and not many corners compared to some others around the world and Grand Prix circuits that we'll all know and love, but the fact that it is Daytona is one of the most daunting things about it. You see the bus stop chicane there. Some of the DPIs, as we saw on that lap, will just be flying through there, barely any deceleration at all. The change of direction is fantastic, but with GT3 cars, they're going to be a little bit more dancey through that part of the track, and that's where I think some of the mid-engined cars may suffer a little bit. They have to get on the brakes and rotate, then come off the brakes, wait for a bit more over rotation, then get back on the throttle, all while trying to keep it pinpoint accurate over those curves and not unsettle the car too much. There's a hell of a lot going on behind the wheel of a race car through there, isn't there? And you obviously need that part of the track to go well because it sets up a run for the main straight at the end of the lap.
Well, engine power is absolutely paramount around here. It's not quite Nürburgring or Le Mans, as you rightly mentioned, because there aren't as many corners for Daytona compared to those circuits, but this is something different. Power is everything around here. You do need some good cornering speed as well, but I think the majority of the eggs in the basket should be on power itself around Daytona. I think it's safe to say.
Yeah, and traffic is going to be important here as well. You need to make sure that you're in the slipstream at the right time and, know when you need to make an attack. Let's not forget as well that there are going to be 36 drivers in this race tonight, split across 2 classes. I believe we have 22 in the GT3s, 14 in the DPi class, but there's over 1,000 entrants in this event. They have all been basically manually calculated with their ratings and their ranks over their previous races on RaceRoom. They've implied a bit of a ranking system, quite a manual one for this, and the top 36 drivers in Europe are going to be in this race tonight. There are other splits still going on as well, and I think there's quite a party atmosphere about it, Tom, with the fact that there's so many other races going on at the same time. It's brilliant to see, isn't it?
It's brilliant as well. And in case you're wondering what Traction do, well, here's a chance for you to find out what we have to offer.
And there we go. We are broadcasting live tonight from Traction HQ as well in Newcastle in the United Kingdom. So we are thankful to them for having us here this evening. And obviously they are a big part of this event as well, working hand in hand with the wonderful people at RaceRoom. But like we've said, Tom, this is going to be a huge challenge here tonight. And it's not just down to out-and-out pace as well. There may be a bit of fatigue come into this as well with drivers, obviously later on in the race, if they have to concentrate extra hard. I know that there's some drivers, there's a bit of a variation in how much they can race for a long time without being distracted, and there's other drivers that they have to be right in the zone with it all the time. I can talk for England, as people know, but to do that while driving as well, it's a different kettle of fish, isn't it?
It is, and we're expecting a race distance of 88 laps around this course, so drivers need to think carefully how they play race strategy. In terms of fuel use per lap, it's something like 2.85 litres a lap, which you need around this course, and the maximum fuel tank size is 75 litres, so some drivers are going to play different strategies to each other, and it'll be an interesting just to keep tabs on who is doing what, I would say, in each of the classes, because with the DPIs being faster than the GT3s, they're going to be consuming more fuel, so we expect to see quite a few, maybe a few more pit stops than from the GT3s.
Yeah, definitely. That'll be the DPIs as well with that 75-litre tank. So they need to keep their eye on it. Obviously, these cars are very, very light despite their size. As you can see here, then, it is Christian Mikel that is fastest in qualifying by less than a tenth of a second from Filippo. Hakkinen, no relation to Mika, I believe, third place, only just over a tenth of a second behind. The two Hungarian drivers of Farkas and Orban are next up. But, I mean, looking down those times, Tom, it is ridiculously close. There's a few tenths of a second between the likes of Rebello, Braun and Gra a bit further back, but even still, just a couple of seconds between each of them. I'm sorry, a couple of tenths of a second is crazy, but what about that GT3 gap as well?
Yeah, it's a big gap indeed, and Dre's fastest of the GT3s ahead of Javosikev and Migovic and Gitchi. And yeah, you can just see how close they are. I mean, less than 3 tenths separating the top 4 in GT3s, which is phenomenal to see. And so the race is coming towards its start time. What are you thinking for the race? What are we expecting?
I'm interested to see this GT3 category, see which of the cars can break away in the early stages. Obviously, as you could see from qualifying there, the Lamborghini's quite dominant at this stage. I believe at one point in qualifying it was the entire top 9 was all Lamborghinis. So I'm intrigued to see if they kill the tyres a bit sooner, and that's the reason for the pace, you know, whether there's a bit of a balance there if they do start to drop off as the race goes on, and whether there's any cars further down that, you know, further back in the pack using the slipstream, they may be able to save the fuel a little bit, take the stint 1 lap longer, because that's one thing that's difficult round here at Daytona, is because so much of the lap is full throttle and it demands that because of the oval section, it's not that easy to save fuel unless you're in a huge gaggle with a lot of cars around you, is it?
Well, if there was one place to not be saving fuel or trying to save fuel, it's round the bankings, you have to say, because you're just compromising all the speed all the way towards turn 1 if you're going through the front stretch, and if you're going towards the Le Mans, you're going through the back stretch and so on. So you've got to play it carefully. You've got to play your cards right, as they all say. And looking at how much time you need for a pit stop, if you're going for a full tank, it's like 35 seconds. For 30 litres of fuel, it's like 15 seconds. So traffic could come into it as well, because they're going to be coming up behind us. So you've got to really, really play it very, very cleverly, it has to be said.
Yeah, 100%. And you have to consider the speed difference in a lap as well between the DPIs and the GT3s, because the DPIs, they're quicker in a straight line, but not by a colossal amount from where the Mazda is standing. You know, we've all seen the recent differences in lap times and straight line speed when it comes to the newer GTP prototypes that you see in the like of IMSA and in the World Le Mans, or the Le Mans series, and of course the Le Mans 24-hour. But I think that the Mazdas will catch a few of the GT drivers out here. There has to be a bit of mutual respect between the two classes. They have to, if they're obviously going for a move, make themselves predictable from an overtaking standpoint, but the GT3s also need to be predictable as well. If they're going to move out of the way, they need to make it obvious. A lot of the time, if you ask multi-class drivers, though, in a faster class, they would prefer it if the other car stayed on its usual line, and it was easier to predict like that. So I'm intrigued to see which side of the coin we get first tonight, and whether there's any incidents regarding lap traffic.
Irrespective of which classes they're in, it's important that they keep respect for each other on the
100%.
circuit. Yeah, and respect and trust is going to be a vitally important thing for an event like this, because if you end up involved in an incident, that's your race compromise.
Yeah, 100%. And the thing is as well, with the damage in RaceRoom, you can't just sit and tow back to the pits and get away with it. You have to at least try and get the car back if it's drivable and bring it into the pits to get those repairs done. We may see some retirements if people have an issue in the early stages of the lap, like the International Horseshoe that we see there. That is often a very big red zone for incidents, drivers trying to just send it up the inside, whether it's another car in their own class or whether it's one of the prototypes trying a last second move on the GT3s. It can very easily go wrong in places like that. The kink as well, the left-hand kink that you mentioned in the hot lap, we've seen so many cars just end up over the left-hand side into the fence in there, and it's just down to these things getting loose at very high speed. So there's a few problem corners, I think, that the drivers will have to be really careful of here tonight. And we're not going to be finishing this race without a few people going off in that fashion.
No, I wouldn't say. I do expect there to be mistakes, and we understand that drivers are coming towards the pit straight to begin the race. Now they can just see the DPIs and the GT3s on the graphics, so you know where everyone is. Not far away from start and Chaz, and they look like they're very much ready to go, aren't they?
Yeah, absolutely. The driver on the left-hand side up on the right-hand side, I believe, is Rob Fan in the number 11, but we look at Mikel in the lead car at the moment, at least. Christian Mikel put it on pole position, car number 13, definitely not unlucky for him. Just saw on one of our producer screens to the left-hand side of us in the studio here that one of the cars did not get away when they spawned onto the circuit on the back straight. So I'm intrigued to see whether that is one of the lead cars or whether it's one of the drivers from further back in the DPIs. I think it's very interesting that we have the DPI category here with just one make of car. because usually in that category you have a number of different manufacturers, you know, that have made their own car from scratch and they have different strengths and weaknesses. But it's great to see that it's basically turned half of a multi-class race into a one-make race. So yeah, I'm intrigued to see who can make that work off the bat. We've got Philip Drace leading the way in GT3s as they head towards the line, ahead of Dravosikov. As they get to the line now, they get the foot down, and 2.4 hours of Daytona is underway. And straight away, Filipao just slots back in there. It looks like it was Fan, actually, that had dropped down from earlier on. He's now at the bottom of the DPi category. They keep it nice and tidy around the first corner, though, but look at Hakkinen trying to move on Filipao already for second position. Wants to make it the two red DPIs at turn 1. I said earlier, it's very, very easy to make a mistake into the International Horseshoe, and all of a sudden, he's swallowed up by Farkas door to door as they head down towards the cake top.
Yes, absolutely. And Hakkinen going too deep into the horseshoe, and that's backfired him there. Farkas do. And that is Hakkinen spinning round before they get to the second horseshoe of the lap.
Well, he had contact there, ran a little bit wide, clipped the side of Farkas, bounced off him, and now he's swallowed up by GT3s, who have also been distracted. And, well, the second place Lamborghini goes flying down the order. I'm pretty sure that was Dravosikov that has had that contact. The car that was in third position just came steaming into there. Now side by side into the banking section, at least. Hard on the brakes. There's a Lamborghini side by side with the BMW. We look there at one of the Porsches. I think that's the FAF liveried Porsche as well. Lovely tartan colour scheme on that car with one of the M4s just loaded in behind him. M4 in front as well. I know I'd rather look at the back of that M4 than the front of it, because the back end of it is so much prettier. Looks Lexus-esque though, I've always said. We'll have to discuss that later on, because there's another M4 now trying to make the move as they head down towards the bus stop for the first time. You can see the BMW behind there deciding to take it easy, go single file. Look at how they tentatively make their way through there, Tom. You can tell they're as terrified of it as us.
Yeah, when they're on full sense of fuel, as I say, so very easy to get it wrong. As the fuel burns off, they'll be able to attack the Le Mans chicane more than they are currently doing. So it's a long way to go for them to get that far. But it's Michelle who's in the lead. It's Enzo Filipao in second place. Ben Farkas is third. And it's Christian Orban in fourth place, just keeping himself in touch. Drace is in the lead in GT3, followed by Rosalind Gitchy. And it's Nikola Lakovsky who's in fifth place, or fourth place rather, in GT3. We've just seen an instant going on overhead. It's almost gridlock, and that could have been a repeat of what we had at the horseshoe on the previous lap.
Yeah, the Lamborghini around in turn 1 and literally just parked on the apex. All the drivers did really well there. The Porsche actually of Iveco nearly went into the Lamborghini ahead of them. Did really, really well not to have a serious incident. We look at the BMW right now, the blue and black machine. We've got the Porsche bright pink, very easy to distract Porsche. It's the Roxy car, actually, I'm told, because they have the Rexy and Roxy Porsches over in IMSA, which are the dinosaur liveried machines. Pink one being Roxy. Not having a great time at late as Roxy, so it's good to see she's still intact after lap 1 here. They've got the McLaren, the 720S, trying to go around the outside there and make a move as going for the cutback onto the banking. That's nicely put together. I think that was Meese going down the inside there, just trying that one. And now look, we've got the onboard shot trying to chase them down from Radim Tokar, 17th position at present, trying to get into the slipstream. I mean, the slipstream's massive on that back straight, isn't it, Tom? Look at the speed they're doing there. That's crazy stuff.
Yeah, we're going to be seeing plenty of that throughout the race, that's for certain. But you can see Tokar just tucking up behind. He won't take too many risks through the Le Mans chicane. It's not worth it at this stage, so he just tucks in behind Miss as they go through the slalom section now, and it will soon be the front stretch that we're coming to after the bank. You can just see someone from the DPi car just coming back through the field a little bit there, and so he's got some work to do. But back at the front, we've got Enzo Filipao in third place behind Ben Farkas, who's holding now, and it's Christian Orban who is behind in fourth place. This is a three-car battle for second place in the DPi class, and Toka Hakkinen, who, after that spin on the first lap, is in 10th position.
Yeah, really, really lovely start though for Mikel, isn't it? Nearly 2.7 seconds clear at the front of the order. We've also got the benefit of that time ticking over very quickly. It refreshes very fast on the intervals on the left-hand side of your screen there, so we can see whether that gap starts to close up or open up again because of the accordion effect. Look at that, down the inside we look at Iveco there in the Porsche, but the McLaren, that was Van der Broek, and he's been nerfed off the road. He has a big old wobble, luckily goes across the circuit and doesn't get clipped by anybody else. Wow, that was terrifying stuff. As actually, was that Vega going off there? I'm not surprised that the BMW was had to sort of back out the next move. Maybe a bit overexcited by that. But wow, it got very busy towards the kink there. And it just seemed like the BMW and the McLaren, they sort of magnetised together, didn't they? And all of a sudden it was the McLaren that went flying off. He really bounced off the side of him.
And that was down to impatience as well, Chaz, because he was desperate to try and find a way through, trying to find a gap, and the gap just wasn't right there. So that's backfired him horribly. So the drivers continue to make their way around. We're 5 minutes into the race already. We've got change of lead in the GT3 class. Rosen has gone through ahead. Yuval Rosen has gone through ahead of Drace, and now he's ahead for the time being. But of course, there's still a long way to go in this race. We've got a yellow flag in sector 3. We'll find out what...
Van der Broek's BMW has disappeared from shot and has just got a yellow flag next to it. There it is. He's gone off at the bus stop, one of the first victims of the bus stop in this race for Rune van der Broek, and you could say he's ruined his own start of the race there. He's now going to be a bit annoyed driving with a bit of the red mist, but it's easy to have that, isn't it, in the opening stint?
Yeah, it's easy to do it, especially on heavy fuel tanks of fuel.
Sorry, Tom, funnily enough, he's got the McLaren that he had contact with before, now right back with him again. They've got round 2. Someone sound the bell.
No, they need to be sensible here now. Just play it easy there. He's just cut across them in there, but that was a little bit too aggressive, to my liking at least anyway. And so Van der Broek will just want to settle in behind for the time being and just let what looks like... Is that one of the... It's Vega, I think, that's just gone through ahead of him, isn't it? So Vega's through at last. Later than he would have liked to have done. We've got another yellow flag in sector 3. We'll find out exactly what's happened there.
Philippau's around. Philippau from near the lead of the race as well. Everybody going this way and that way to avoid. And that's just as you get back onto the banking as well, by the look of it. So Philippau's had a drama maybe getting onto the throttle and up onto the banking like you mentioned before. It's not easy to do that with the sudden change of elevation. The car itself is really trying to rock itself apart. We've got Orban on our screen now into the first corner, right behind Farkas, the two Hungarian drivers. Hungary for a result. No, that's the bottom of the barrel. We've got Mikel still just disappearing up the road though, 2.9 seconds ahead of them. We've got DeBee behind them, and then Dixon in 5th position. Could say that 4th place is wondering whether DeBee or not DeBee. But right now, these two are seemingly, they're not fighting too hard, are they, at this early stage, by the look of it anyway. I don't know whether that's just because Orban can't stay with Farkas, but yeah, we'll see whether that changes in the long run or if they work together as a Hungarian duo to try and catch the lead.
We'll find out later on. Meanwhile, Gasper in the GT3 class has got Sen right behind. He's heading down the inside after the Le Mans chicane. That's a change of position between those two in their respective cars. It's a change for 14th place, although Miz stays in the slipstream. It's almost like bump drafting that they're doing, which is not unusual around Daytona, but hopefully he doesn't do it too aggressively because they'll be coming towards turn 1 in a moment. Looks to the outside to pull out of the slipstream, maybe try and do a slingshot on the exit towards the chicane that they're coming through at turn 2. Not quite this time around. I think it's safe to say that that is a conclusion for that squabble between the two. And like you say, Michelle, absolutely pulling away the gap now, 3.8 seconds over Ben's Farkas. Christian Orban just keeping Farkas honest for the time being. Hakkinen coming back through the order in 5th place.
Yeah, some solid drives in the opening stages here. Rosen leading the way by only 0.2 of a second. Well, give or take 0.3 of a second to Drace in the GT3s. But yeah, the best battle's going on a bit further down, as we saw there. It's the two sister Lamborghinis, it seems, of Yuval Rosen and Drace leading the way. The Israeli driver at present the top of them all, hoping to just keep Drace in that slipstream. Now the question here would be, Tom, does Drace, now they've got a bit of a gap behind them where there's clearly not going to be any slipstream, does Drace sit in said slipstream with Rosen just in front, try and save fuel in this opening stint, just so he knows later on how much it's possible to save?
I'm going to have to interrupt because Rosen did not get a good exit coming out of the Le Mans chicane, and that might be a time for him to just allow Drace to go through, because Drace decides to stay in the slipstream. It's almost like he's nudging him just to help compensate for the bad exit that Rosen had, just to get him up to the optimal speed possible. They certainly are working as a team, but they can't be too kind to each other at this point, I would have thought.
Yeah, I was going to say, he's made it clear there what his intentions are. He's saying, look, I'm not coming through, even if you have a bad exit or not. I'm just going to give you a push. Because at the end of the day, he's got the slipstream from the car in front. He's then transferring that extra speed back to the car in front to help both of them as a pairing. Back to the FAF liveried Porsche for Nicolas Areco, looking down the inside of the Lamborghini. Doesn't work this time. He's actually came off the brakes a little bit to try and edge the car into the apex, but again, didn't quite work there. That Lamborghini seems to have really good corner exit. It looks a lot more stable than any Lamborghini I've seen before, because a lot of drivers in GT3s, regardless of what sim you're on, they will always tell you the Lamborghini is one of the quickest cars out there, but you have to be able to wrangle the thing to get it to work. We go back to another one further up. This is Gitchy chasing down the gorgeous Red Bull liveried Audi R8 LMS Evo 2. Another Lamborghini or two behind them as well. So they've got a bit of pressure from both angles here. And the Audi, I think, is the highest placed car that isn't a Lamborghini at the moment in the GT3s. So they're certainly working hard at this. I can actually tell you that Gitchy was ahead of Ribeiro earlier on as well, because it was the two gold and black Lamborghinis at the front, then the two black and blue ones in our previous shot. So Ribeiro has got past recently. Gitchy's going to say, no, I don't like that. One 5.2 litre V10 hits the back of another, and the other Lamborghini just behind them wants a piece of this as well. They've got to be so careful because of the check-up into that chicane, haven't they, Tom? You can follow closely around the banking as they all slide their way through, but you need to be prepared for everybody to brake early and take it easy into that.
Yeah, you don't want to be too close to the car ahead of you, because sometimes you're having to second guess when they're going to brake, and if they brake earlier than you do, then it's a recipe for disaster. But you can just see Gitchy, who is going through the banking, I think this is teammates a couple of places behind. The pair of them in between that Lamborghini, who is coming through now over the line. It's almost like the bumping into us, which is very interesting to see.
He's absolutely sent him down the inside. He's going to get past the Audi as well here.
Yeah.
Ribeiro's under attack all of a sudden. And look at that. Even Dre's in second position is under attack. These three blue Lamborghinis are all going to meld into one in a minute and make our life very difficult, aren't they?
Yeah. Well, they're coming through the horseshoe, the first of the two horseshoes of the lap. I think we're just settling down a little bit now, but it will change in the foreseeable future. On lap 8, with Michel still in the lead, with Farkas in second place. There he is, looking. He'll be coming up to the GT3 cars in a moment there, so this could make it a little bit more tricky for Christian Michel, the German driver racing for the leadracing.com squad, and he's just taking it very, very sensibly for the time being. And so he'll be coming around towards the final part of the road course section of this track before he heads through the bankings, the 31-degree bankings of Daytona. And this is very much the ideal moment to get past the GT3 cars, is it, for these DPIs. If it's through the road section, that's going to make it more tricky because of how narrow it is. But over here, like we were saying earlier, Chaz, you would want them to stay on the line that they're on, so that it gives the DPIs a better idea as to when to pass them.
Yeah, definitely. I think one of the worst places to catch them will be on the way into the bus stop chicane like that, but at the same time on the exit they can still use that straight line speed advantage. I mean, look at the top end of it here. He's going to have to go a bit risky and go between the Lamborghini and the Audi, but Christian Michel keeps it nice and tidy, and the rest of the V10s that are all battling in the background can just do their thing. I'm sure it sounds absolutely phenomenal when the absolute symphony of those machines flies by. But now into second position is, well, I would have thought it was Drace, but actually it's Lekowski in fifth position. So these are the cars a bit further down. Actually, now the positions are changing as Dravosikov goes past Ribeiro in the Audi, and now there's more DPIs in the mix as well. That's second place driver Farkas. And wow, he's somehow got through past all of those guys without any major dramas. But look at the Lamborghini parade here. You've got Dravosikov, then Ribeiro, then Nikola Lekowski in fifth position, looking back at two more Lamborghinis. Now the DPIs are in the mix. This is a scary time though for the GT3s, because they have to keep an eye on each other. And well, I mean, the wing says driver's best friend, but that's the last thing they are to DPIs right now, as there's more contact between the extra Lambos in this mix.
Well, it's a Lamborghini, I don't know if we call it a circus, let's say, because they're all like getting involved in each other's battles, really, so focusing on what it is they want to be doing. But there here's Bruce Harris, who's running in 14th position in the GT3 class, behind Sen, who is in the identical livery there. You can just see drivers just scattering around, more DPIs coming through the field there. We're going to be seeing a lot of that throughout the race, that's for absolutely certain. Ziska in the BMW, by the looks of it, he's got a DPI and another GT3 alongside. There goes the second of the DPIs. It's almost like they're standing still a little bit, isn't it?
Yeah, I was going to say, I imagine there would be a pace difference between these machines on the banking, but the Mazdas have really caught me off guard with this one, you know. It's been amazing. Here's Rui Felipe going past Gra. Now, Gra did not make that difficult. I think he knows that going into the bus stop, you don't want to be side by side. You don't want to fight it too hard. And he's just said, you know what? you can have that one, Rui, if you want to really throw the car in there. You can go on by and carry on about your own race. Some of them may be trying to sort of strengthen, to lengthen a stint in these early stages, but I don't think it's worth it. With the first one with the DPIs, with it being one make and them not being as sort of packed up as the GT cars are at the moment, I think it's better for them to just stay flat out in the opening stages. Use the pace advantage they've got over the GT3s. There's contact between the Lambos. It was always going to happen. Mikiewicz has gone past Cody Nikola Lakowski, and Nikola now losing more and more positions to, funnily enough, more Lamborghinis around them as through goes Roche and Grotta. Those two go by. There's the BMW in the mix as well, but now the traffic's come into this, Tom. It's just suddenly exploded into action. There's cars absolutely everywhere, isn't there?
Yeah, and what I've noticed as well on the graphic of the driver's name, you just see on the right hand side the gears and the speed that they're currently going in. So Lakowski's in second gear as he lets the DPIs go through at the West Horseshoe, and we'll stay with him just so that we can see the gears that he's going off. So he's through second gear at turn 6, and then 7 and 8 he should be up to 6th gear by the time he gets to the Le Mans chicane, or maybe 7, depending on how many speeds there are within the gearbox of this machine. He's already up to 6th gear through the banking there. He's got the benefit of a tow, but I think he'll stay in 6th gear from here on out. So it's a 6-speed gearbox in these GT3s which they're going through. So Lakowski going through the Le Mans chicane now. We can come away from him, but back to the front with Michel. He's got a lead of just under 6 seconds. It's coming down a little bit now, actually, because Pence Farkas has been getting on, chasing him, and then Orban is not too far. But Hakkinen, after that spin on the first lap, you can see a spin. That's one of the DPIs. That is Jesper Ontis who's gone round. That's the Le Mans chicane, and his race is compromised not too much. And you want to just rejoin just before those group of cars there come round, especially the GT3s. And thankfully he stays ahead, but he's lost time.
Well, he's Jesper Oftis at this point, isn't he? Never mind Ontis. He's absolutely lobbed it into the scenery. At least the car was green, so it blended in with the grass a little bit. We look now at Ilya Dravosikov in third place, chasing down Drace for second position. Drace has not been able to stay with Rosen at the front of this order. You could say he's Rosen away from him in the heat of battle. And right now, Drace is under all sorts of pressure. It's interesting to see that the Lamborghini has been the most prominent car by quite a long shot at the early stage of this. Again, I wonder whether that pace comes with, does it kill the tyres later on? Is it a tyre killer? I don't know. You can see the DPi there exercising caution behind them. We'll see whether the Audis and the BMWs and even the Porsches that are in the mix as well make any advancements on these Lambos later on into the stint. We are nearly 20 minutes through this race already. Time flies when you're having fun, Tom.
Yes, absolutely. And we've got, we're not too far away from pit stops, because remember I was saying it's 2.85 litres per lap that drivers are consuming. So they'll have consumed something like 35 litres of fuel. So they'll be thinking about when to be pitting at some point. But we're looking at Dravosikov, who is in third place in the GT3 cars behind Philip Drace, and Rosen, who's in the lead by over 2.5 seconds ahead of those within his class. We're looking at Drace, who's under attack now from Dravosikov, who decides to play the game of bump drafting him before he decides to pull him. So maybe it's a game of chess now, actually. Does he actually want to pass him at this stage? Because you can just see he wants all the speed he can get, but he doesn't want to get through ahead of him. No,
he's playing the long game here. He knows that there's other GT3 cars in and around them. They've got that group in the background there. Look, you can see the other Audi and Lamborghini, Ribeiro and Mikiewicz, all wanting to gain extra positions. They're going to work as hard as they can to gain time on these two Lamborghinis on screen right now. And these two Lamborghinis want to work as hard as they can to get away from them. And then at least they can battle a bit more when they've got some clean air behind them and nobody really pressurising them. But the slipstream's quite strong around here at Daytona in these GT3 cars. So, at the moment they're about 9/10 of a second off the back of them, the Audi and Lamborghini in the background. So they will get a tiny bit of slipstream. It won't be enough to show us a huge effect of them flying on by down the back straight, but it'll be enough at that stage to just keep them within an interesting distance.
We're on lap 13 now. Michel's lead is over 6 seconds. We're looking at Thomas Ribeiro in that Red Bull livery Audi come through turn 7. He seems to be rather content for the time being, but Mikiewicz can easily close down that gap and decide to send it. So we'll see how these two get on for the time being. Now the race is very much quieting down. You can just see on the graphic there where everyone is on the left-hand side on the time tyre, and it looks like Mikovic has been allowed through by Ribeiro. Ribeiro did not fight it.
No, he didn't try and squeeze him over to the inside. There's no point on that part of the circuit. At the end of the day, he's just said, look, I'll just stay where I am. And even in, we were talking earlier about the GT3 cars making themselves predictable for the DPIs. He's made himself predictable there for a car in his own class. You can see again the slipstream, the straight line speed of that Lamborghini is strong enough, but with the slipstream there from Sen going past Areco, that thing just flew by. Absolutely flew by. The Porsche has never been known for being a car that's fast in a straight line. It's always been a lot more of a sort of all-rounder of a car, a jack-of-all-trades, master-of-none sort of machine in GT3 racing. It's a very stable platform. This isn't stable though. This is Tim Roche side by side, I believe. Is that Grota just in front as well? The two effectively sister cars. Grota has gone very, very straight on into turn one and taking advantage of that, going through. Is that Nikola Lakovsky coming back through and getting a place? We've got a thumbs up from production. We got it.
So we nailed that one there, and Roche just dropping back a little bit. But he'll just play the long games like a lot of drivers will be doing. We're looking at Enzo Filippo. If you remember, he had that spin on the exit of the Le Mans chicane, which cost him time. Now he's in the battle with DeBee, who we've not spoken too much about. I don't think he's been involved in too many battles so far in this one, in the first 20 minutes. So Filippo will just want to just dispose of him as soon as he can. But DeBee, by no means, is going to be any form of pushover.
No, definitely not. And he's held on to 5th position since the drama that Enzo Filippo had earlier on in the race. But there will be a little bit of self-belief in Filippo after his qualifying result earlier on. He'll be thinking, look, I was quicker than these guys in qualifying. It may not have been a big gap, but at the end of the day, I was quicker. DeBee will also know that, and looking in his mirrors, he'll think, this guy started ahead of me on the grid. So you use them as like placeholders for people's pace. When you sit there on the grid and you have enough time to look at your competitors and think about who's around you and who is quicker than you, it's a mental placeholder. And DeBee will be thinking now, Filippo is quicker than me. Simple as that. And I have to hold him off. Not I have to get away from him. It'll be I have to hold him off. So, yeah, Rokas will be, I was going to say focused. He will be Rokas on his rearview mirror and making sure that he doesn't make any mistakes with that bright yellow distracting car behind. Production loved that.
See how much he gets into the slipstream. We've got a yellow flag in sector 3, and we are told there's been a crash involving Vega. And unfortunately, we can't get a replay this minute in time. I don't know if we can get a replay, but we've seen the aftermath of it. And Vega is on his way. Doesn't look like he's got too much damage to the machine there, so it could just well be a spin from his part.
Yeah, but it looks like it. Oh, Zareco. Oh, he's done himself in there. Nicholas Areco goes too hot into the first corner, just drifts wide into the Lamborghini. And to be fair, Tom, I think it's quite fair there that the Lamborghini wasn't the car that came off worse, because the Lamborghini gave loads of racing room down the inside, and unfortunately for Areco, they've just bounced off the side of it, and they've lost a lot of time, but they've now got to make back up once again.
Yeah, the incidents aren't stopping for the time being, and Areco losing time after the contact. We'll go back to the battle for second place in GT3. This is Philip Drace and Trevosico, who are coming towards the backstretch and the Le Mans chicane. Drace holding him off for the time being. Travosikov stays within the drive. He's not going for it at this stage. They know they've got Rosen, who's only a second ahead of these. So, he won't want to take too many risks now, as Travosikov, he'll want to get into the slipstream and go for it very soon. We've got another incident in Sector 3. We'll find out who that is in a moment.
I think it's one of the GT3s in the middle there, because we can see the top 10 of the DPIs on screen. Oh, no, never mind. Shut up, Chaz. It's Fan. It's one of the DPIs. Of course it is. I had a 50-50 chance of it being one class or the other. And, of course, it was going to be the one I didn't go for. But look at this, though, Tom. They are absolutely glued together, these Lambos now, aren't they?
Yeah, they're very much. Now, will he send it down the inside into turn 1 while he's too far back to do it? Drace takes his line, which he has the right to do. And so he holds on for the time being, but for how long? And you can just see there's a battle going on behind these two. I think it's the battle for 4th place. You've got Ribeiro and Mikovic. Ribeiro back ahead of Mikovic from what we saw earlier. We just see Drace running too deep, and that could be the invitation that Travosikov needs.
Got to run, but no overlap before they get to the kink, and you can see Drace was a little bit hesitant there to keep coming over, just in case Travosikov had enough of a run on him to get by. All the while, though, these guys have been catching up with Rosen. So Rosen's not out of the woods yet. Here's Van Volivelde in the number... I can't see the number there. Looking position. He's right behind the other Porsche. That's what they call half a Porsche. You've got actually, you could say, I reckon it's a Reco in front of him, and it is actually after losing all that time earlier. We need a tally for how many times production are going to shake their heads at the names there. But Volivelde in the gorgeous Manthey Racing Porsche. Very subtle, isn't it, Tom?
Oh, very simple. So the car number looks like a 91 on that machine there, so that could be something for reference for later on. Giuliano Volivelde in 15th place in GT3, just keeping himself in there for the time being. Michel's lead is over 8 seconds on Varka, so it feels like he's built up the gap from earlier. But the battle for second place is still going on in GT3 involving Drace and Trivosikov. And I wonder if there's going to be a change for position at some point. You can just see sparks trailing out. We've got a yellow flag. And Orban spawned. Christian Orban has had a moment somewhere, and we'll come to him in a moment whilst we are seeing this battle of Trivosikov and Drace. That battle has died down for now. But Christian Orban looks like he's had a mistake at Le Mans and has dropped down to 4th position behind Turco Häkkinen.
Has he got damage on that front left as well? Because it looks like that headlight has gone out. The front right headlight's definitely working. I don't know if that's just down to Mazda's electrics or not, but he might have damage on that front left corner. I'm not sure if the car is wiggling or not, or whether that's just a connection-based thing, but yeah, it certainly didn't look the stablest into there. And now it's quite scary, actually. If you have an issue at that bus stop chicane, you have to get back up to speed. The first corner you're going to get to with a potentially damaged car is going to be turn 1 at Daytona, which is mighty terrifying, even when your car's running perfectly. There's definitely some damage there on that front left, isn't there, Tom? It's not huge, but that light has gone out.
Yeah, I could just say you can tell that the car has had a hit against the wall or something. So Orban not going through. I mean, I don't know if we can get a view from these onboard inside the car just to see how his steering wheel behaves. So we're just going through the horseshoe, and now it's coming towards turns 6 and 7 and 8. So we'll just see how the steering wheel behaves coming out. It looks all right so far, yeah. So he's getting through the corner absolutely fine. It could just be a light hit against the wall that we should have seen that front headlight go. So it looks okay for the time being, his Albans, but he's left him with more work to do than desired. Enzo Filippo is closing on, and he's only a couple of seconds behind.
He must have knocked the fuse out or something, because his timing screen on the top right's not working. That and his bulb's gone, so yeah, he needs a parts franchise somewhere nearby sometime soon. But we go back to the GT3 battle over second place, and it's Philip Drace in second position. They're still only 3/4 of a second off the back of Rosen, and you can see that gap is coming down quite rapidly now with the slipstream. They're within a second of the leader. There's a battle behind Ribeiro and Mikovic as well. Well, they're that close together that they're actually swapping places on our timing screen as they were coming across the line there. So Mikovic is certainly digging the front end of that Lamborghini underneath the Audi. It is like a doorstop, the Lamborghini. It's the prettiest doorstop in the world. But I tell you what, you would not really feel comfortable if you were behind the wheel of Ribeiro's Audi there, knowing that that shovel-like Lamborghini could lift the back end of the car off the ground. You could see it firing a lot of backfire at it as they headed around the first corner. On board with Häkkinen, which is something I've always wanted to say in my commentary career. We've got this car in third position at the moment, looking down the inside of another DPi. That's actually putting a lap on another DPi, I believe. That's Rob Fan. You won't be a fan of that. But Häkkinen holding on to his podium position despite all this GT3 traffic. Look how much he's got to really keep his nerves about him there. And actually what that's done is open up the door slightly for Trivosikov. He's not able to make a move of it though, and that's good for Philip Drace. He would have felt a little bit hard done by there if that would have opened the door and lost him second position for now.
Yeah, well, they're focusing on their own battle now, thanks to the DPIs going through. And you can see Trivosikov, more sparks coming out of the back there and bump drafting Drace. And that might give Drace a little bit of a helping hand there to close in on Rosen. And I think this is pushing both Rosen and Drace into a decision here, because they don't want to get them too close to each other, otherwise Trivosikov will just slingshot his way through at some point in the near future. Now, what does Drace... I think Drace may decide, you know what, if he pulls out alongside, I'll just let him go, because I don't want to be fighting out too much with him, because all he's doing is just pushing me forward and bringing my teammate into the battle who's further ahead. Just 9/10 is the margin between Rosen and Drace as they complete what looks like their 16th lap of the race. And there is Enzo Filippo right behind Orban.
Yeah, there's bump drafting even in the DPIs as well now. Filippo down the inside. We saw him in 6th place just earlier, and now up into 4th position. He'll be over the moon with his recovery so far as he now catches up with the leaders in the GT3 category. But Enzo Filippo running very, very well. He's just making himself well known to these Lambos, look. Runs a little bit wide into the horseshoe, gets a slingshot on the exit, uses the natural straight line difference. Really good stuff there actually from Drace as well. Stays to the left hand side of the circuit for the DPIs. Nicely done. Really well executed that by Enzo Filipao. And it's also helped him out because Orban has got stuck behind the GT3 leader. That was very close, and Orban lobs the car to the right hand side. You've got to wonder about the cooperation of some of these drivers sometimes. I think that Rosen expected the DPi to be well clear of him there by corner exit, didn't he?
Well, at least Filippo and Orban have disposed of those now, and they can get on with their own races and go after Turka Hakkinen, who's over 10 seconds up the road from those two. So we'll come away from that. We've got Giuliano van Vullevelde, who is behind the pink livery GT3. There's an incident set to 3. It's Turka Hakkinen. Hakkinen spun again,
no.
Chaz. And that's at Le Mans once more.
Yeah, he's just been off the road. Looks like he hasn't lost too much momentum. Maybe just had a bit of an excursion across the bus stop. It's easily done without a spin. We'll often see as well, I think later on in the race in particular as well, especially late on in a stint, if drivers have an issue with tyres, or if they feel the tyres going off slightly, or the cars get a little bit more twitchy with less fuel in them, you will see drivers opt to just go straight across the bus stop, won't you? Instead of trying to save the car and potentially throw it into a wall, they'll just go, nope, stuff that, not having anything to do with that, straight over the bus stop and continue on. As we continue on with Enzo Filipao, great recovery for him so far, and to be fair, Orban having an incident, then Hakkinen having an incident, this is all falling into his hands.
You can say the only two who have not had incidents of any kind are Michel and Vargas, who are 1 and 2 in DPI. But there's an awful long way to go. We've got a retirement involving Javier Vega in GT3. Don't know what's happened to him. We did see he had a moment earlier on in the race, but we didn't see anything subsequent to that, so it looks like his race could well be coming to a close. This is the battle for 4th place in GT3. This is Mikovic and Ribeiro heading through turn 6 here. There's Ribeiro in the Audi, and it's a Lamborghini ahead, another incident. And I spoke too soon. Christian Michel has spun at Le Mans.
Unbelievable stuff. Race leader is around. Mikel getting back up to speed now. Needs to be careful because that is Farkas, I believe. The second place car just painfully as he gets back up to speed. Farkas goes by on the right hand side, takes the race lead on lap 20, and Christian Mikel has had a drama that's put him out of the race lead. And now Rob Fan, well, he said, you know what, I can do it better, sunshine. Watch this. Puts it into the wall himself. Now, how much damage has Rob got here? Can he manage to get it back to the pits? There's got to be a rotation joke in there with the surname Fan, surely. Rosen, though, well, he's not making any jokes right now, is he? Because Drace and Travasikov are now suddenly on the back of him for the race lead. This has gone from being a battle for second position in GT3s to be the battle for the lead. Well,
Michel looks like he's coming to the pits, and it's showing that he's retired from the race, believe it or not. I don't know if there's been a connection issue or anything like that, but he's dropped down the order. And yeah, it's showing that he is not finishing. So unfortunately, we can't get a replay of it, of what's happened after the spin. I just don't know whether he took too much damage from contact against the wall, because he did hit the barrier by the looks of it. Yeah, that's the thing as well. In this, you can get repairs, but only to an extent. If you damage the car too much, then the pit crew will, much like in real life, they'll go, no, you're not going back out, sunshine. That's the end of the day. And it seems like maybe Christian Mikel pushing a little bit too hard in the opening stint here to try and open up a gap, because you saw how long he was stationary and how long it took him to get going, and still Farkas only just went past. He was absolutely over the horizon, and unfortunately it's just come down to maybe pushing a little bit too hard. An innocent mistake at the bus stop. I told everybody it was going to be a problem corner, and now Bence Farkas is in the lead of this race by nearly 10 seconds to Turka Hakkinen. Filipao has found himself back on the podium now with all these dramas ahead. I hate to be a commentator's curse sometimes, but I'm going to touch wood when I say that Bence Farkas is possibly the only front runner in the DPi so far, so I have no issues. He's going to hate me if he has a problem now. Well, we'll wait and see. We've got a battle for 9th place in DPi. We haven't seen really the bottom end of the class, but Braun is ahead of Dixon, who is also in a Mazda. All DPIs are in Mazdas, in case you've tuned in just now. But these two are going to be locking horns in a minute. They're over a minute behind the leader. But now we're looking at Dixon, who's trying to find a way through. Bo Dixon behind his counterpart there, just heading through the Le Mans chicane. And no dramas there involving them too. So we've got 2 retirements so far, 1 from each class. Christian Michel, who've been leading the majority of this, is out, and Javier Vega in GT3 has also called it a day.
Look at Braun there moving to the right-hand side now to cover off Dixon, but obviously make their way around the GT3 traffic as well. I'm pretty sure that's Mikovic and Ribeiro. They've just formed one car at this point, and they're just carpooling around the circuit. But right now, Bo Dixon seems like on much better pace than Braun. He seems to have a big edge over him, actually, in the middle sector of the lap. So I'm wondering if Bo Dixon has had a drama or something in previous laps, and that's what's dropped him down a little bit further than where his pace proceeds. He's going through the leaders in the GT3s. And again, look, great display by those guys, all staying over to the left. They know the DPIs will probably want to go around to the right. I say that just as one of the Lamborghinis moves over to the right-hand side. Makes itself very difficult to get around, but as is being a commentator. Right now, we've got Radim Tokar side by side in the Audi versus Lamborghini battle once again. Round the outside into turn one is brave, but that's brilliant stuff from Tokar. Great commitment, gets it stopped for the apex. Lovely, lovely bit of driving that, and a whole host of backfire to go with it as well. Some spare fuel to lob at the front of that. And that was Bruce Harris there. Just behind, we go to another subtly coloured race car, which is Van Vollenvelde in the Porsche, chasing down the BMWs. Thankfully, there's not many BMWs near the front of the order, Tom, so we don't have to look at them.
Well, the latest yellow flag we had was involving Dave Ziska. He's had a moment, but it was only like a minor spin he's had, so the drama wasn't too major. But this is Van den Broeke, who's in 16th position in GT3. The driver behind him in that gorgeous yellow and green liveried car as they head through. We'll find out who that is as the timing graphic updates. This is Van Vollenvelde, yeah, so my apologies that there's so many different names. I can recognise the names, but just sometimes forget the liveries that they're racing in. Sometimes it's kind of difficult to have a link between the two. But that is Giuliano Van Vollenvelde, who is in 17th position and in battle there.
From a commentator's perspective, just to be completely open with everybody here, from a commentator's perspective, when you commentate on sim racing but they're using real-world liveries that you're so used to recognising and seeing on the real-world stage, when they're not using sim racing liveries for us to differentiate them with, and some of them are in obviously the real colours, it actually makes life more difficult because you're used to seeing these with real drivers behind the wheel that we all know the names of, that we've watched growing up and so on, and now you have to sort of reassociate those liveries with drivers that we may not have heard of before, or drivers that we've seen in other series or other sims, and it's always really interesting to get that. Here's Ricardo Rebello in the 6th spot, in 6th gear, funnily enough as well, in the Mazda DPIs. He's got 7th place, number 70 car behind him. You can see just how quickly these things head through the bus-stop chicane. Great shot there from the back of the DP24 machine. And he's got Felipe in there with him, Rui Felipe, hoping to, well, stay in the slipstream at least here, Tom, maybe save a little bit of fuel. I'm intrigued by when we're going to get the first pit stops in this race. We've got a Sector 3 yellow. I'm going to keep my eye on that. Every time it comes up, I tell you what, the graphics do the right thing, don't they? They certainly make it very, very apparent when there's a problem in any of the sectors. It really draws the eye. But pit stops, fuel, it's all going to be an interesting element of this because, like we said earlier, Tom, it's not just down to out-and-out pace, this, is it?
Nope. Well, the battle for the lead in GT3 is coming alive. Less than 3 seconds separating the top 5 from Rosen in the lead to Ribeiro in 5th. And Gicci is only I think it's like 6 seconds behind that lot, but we're going back to the lead of it. This is Drace, who is on the rear of Rosen, coming down the pit straight. They are completing their 21st lap, and they'll be starting their 22nd now. Not too far away from pit stops, these guys. So, like you say, strategy is going to come into play.
I think one thing about this part of the race as well is if the cars are lighter on fuel, they do get a little bit more twitchy, a little bit more lively, especially in GT3s where they can sometimes be quite technically imbalanced cars. You know, it's all down to driving styles and what car suits you in GT3 racing because they are all so different but yet so similar. It's a beautiful form of racing. But some drivers might be better when the cars themselves are light on fuel than when they are heavy on fuel. You know, some of them adapt to it better, some of them can be a bit more consistent through a full stint. Other drivers suddenly come alive when the car's that little bit more responsive and a bit more on the edge. I'm wondering whether Drace and Dravosakov have been the same like that, and Rosen has been one of the drivers that's just been consistent throughout his stint. You know, his pace hasn't really changed a massive amount, but he's doing a good job at pushing for this time being.
He is, and you can just see the top 3 in GT3 in your picture. Heading through the banking, they'll be heading towards the back stretch before Le Mans, which has caught a number of drivers out so far in this race. Farkas's lead in DPi over Hakkinen is less than 7 seconds, and so Filippo not too far behind. There is Turka Hakkinen for the NeedRacing.com squad. and he's going through turn 6, no problem there. He seems to have found his feet again after a really tricky start to this race as Hakkinen, who fell to the back at the beginning, but he's taken advantage of all those who have failed.
Yeah, definitely. He's had his own moment, of course, at the I think it was at the bus stop earlier on. He seemed to lose a little bit of time through there. But here is Rokas DPi, currently in 4th place. Orban, the car behind. Filipao, the car ahead. Filipao disappearing up the road, and has been possibly the best recovery drive of the race so far. It's a shame to see that one of the cars didn't get away at the start of the race. I believe that was Rob Fan that didn't get away when the field got rolling for the very start of the race. But 1 hour and 44 minutes left to go here at Daytona in the 2025 RaceRoom 2.4 hours of Daytona. Chaz Draycott and Tom Cairns here from Traction HQ in the UK. And we're very excited to see how this race unfolds now that pit stops are going to be upon us. There is the leader, Farkas, just having a bit of a moment, wiggling around on the brakes into the International Horseshoe. Maybe a little bit put off by some of the GT3 traffic there, Tom.
Yep, and he won't want to have that. It goes back to what I was saying about getting caught up behind the GT3s on the road section of Daytona. You want to be doing it around the bankings. That's the ideal part of it. And Farkas, well, he's able to get through now, but he has lost time thanks to that. And Hakkinen has been able to get the gap down to just under 6 seconds. Won't be too far away from pit stops here. But going back to the battle for the lead in GT3, because Rosen, Drace and Dravosikov are still there. They're coming towards the back straight, or they're going through the back straights towards Le Mans, and there's still no change at the present moment. Mikovic and Ribeiro are in a fight of their own for 4th place. And Gitchi, well, he's another 7 seconds off that. He's in a battle with Grota, Nikola Lukovsky and Roche. So we've got a 3-car battle for the lead, a 2-car battle for 4th place, and a 4-car battle for 6th position. So
it's all going on.
all going on, yeah.
It's all going on indeed. And if I tell you what, if this is an advert to buy the Lamborghini, I don't know what is. It's absolutely dominating this race so far. 4 of them in the top 5. Ribeiro flying the flag for V10 engines as well, right up behind Mikovic, trying his best to get that Audi into a potential podium position. We've got a yellow flag flicking on and off on the timing for just a moment there, and wondering where that's coming from, but we carry on watching Ribeiro here chasing the Lamborghini down. Love the sound of these V10s, and Farkas is into the pits then, the first one to pit. It's not even like he's got an extra lap here, Tom. Straight in.
I think that explains why the yellow flag was flickering a little bit, because I think drivers coming into the pits. So we've got Farkas in, we've got Hakkinen in, we've got DeBee in, and
Filipau's in as well.
Filipau's in as well.
I think I don't think they've got enough capability to stretch a stint out by another lap. I don't think there's enough of a window either side with the fuel tank. Only been 75 litres here. They may be able to save a little bit in the slipstream. I mean, Rui Felipe's carried on. He's going to go through and lead, actually, so he's proving Chaz wrong. Dixon goes with him. They say, shut up, Chaz, watch this. We can save fuel. What do you know? As now, the drivers behind will start to come out of the pit lane. Well, you can see from the timing, it's great that we get that in real time, but Hakkinen is the furthest forward in the pit lane, which is why he's showing ahead of Filipao. They are still stationary at the minute. He's got that little fuel in it. He's defying gravity at the moment as Filipao leaves the pit lane ahead of everybody else. Where is Farkas in all of this? Farkas still in the pits.
So Farkas has been undercut from Hakkinen and all that. So that's a really body blow for Farkas, who's leading out a long way behind.
Yeah,
he's had a longer start than his rivals have.
I wonder, sorry Tom, if he's been given any sort of penalty for speeding in the pits. I know in a lot of sims you do get penalties when you speed in the pit lane. It gets added onto your pit stop. So we'll have a look and see whether that might be the case here, and see if that's why Farkas has dropped down. But this has worked out beautifully for Filipao. He's found himself in the lead effectively, hasn't he? Because Braun, Dixon, Felipe, they've all still got a pit.
Well, we'll see how long it takes. I mean, I wonder if they'll stretch out each stint longer than the leaders. And if they do that, they'll be able to go more aggressively on the final stint before the race is over. So that is something that they'll be considering for later on. There's Grota, who's coming up towards one of the DPIs. There's no point battling it because he knows he's not going to win. Yeah. And he allows them through sensibly. And we've got a yellow flag and sensor through. Hakkinen's had a spin. Yeah, he's had a spin again, has Hakkinen. And yeah, that is thrown away some of the margin he's built up on Farkas as a result of the pit stops. And yeah, that's not an ideal scenario there. In fact, Farkas is ahead of him now. So Hakkinen, after getting ahead of him in the stops, has totally thrown it away.
I thought Farkas came out ahead of everybody in the pit stops. Hakkinen and also... Oh, no, sorry, it's Philippas ahead of... Yeah, my bad. So many names and swaps since the beginning here and so many recovery drives that it's easy to forget who's where. Dixon has gone on for another lap here, actually, which is quite interesting. He and Braun have both gone through. Rui Felipe is in the pit lane, so he's the one of the 3 drivers that went through earlier that has now ducked into the pit lane. Here's Cody Nikola Latkovsky. Not seen much of the Macedonian driver in a while. He's in the thick of it between these Red Bull liveried Lamborghinis. Or are they Red Bull liveried? They're white and blue, I know that much. I think it's the Liqui Moly livery, isn't it, that's on those machines. Either side of him. Fantastic looking race car in any livery is the Lamborghinis. A lot of the British GT run Lamborghinis are often run by Barwell Motorsport in this sort of matte black livery. It always looks exciting. Quite like it in the white and blue, though. You can see there Latkovsky being quite considerate, because even though he's bump drafting the car ahead of him, which is Grota, up to the back of Gitchy, who's trying to break the slipstream by staying out of the way, he's doing it slowly. He backed out of the throttle a little bit to make sure the initial impact wasn't massive into the car in front. So he just gave him a little bit of a kiss and then piled the pressure back on to lead him through. So it's good stuff, that, because it shows cooperation from these drivers. It shows respect. And now I'm sure they're going to all throw that out the window as the 4 Lamborghinis try and battle together. Here's Rob Fan down the pit lane.
Yeah, so Fan, who's had a race to forget so far, he'll just be hoping he can maybe go longer. He has been able to go longer than the leaders, which he hasn't got anything to lose now, considering these 2 laps down on the likes of Dixon, Braun and Philippou. Well, Philippou's the highest of all those who has pitted, so he's effectively the net race leader.
Theoretical race leader right now, Philippou. And DeBee will be in 2nd place. Not seen much of Ontis after he was dubbed Oftis earlier on. But Braun and Dixon, they're the 2 cars that have really stretched this stint. Like I said before, I didn't think they had even the ability to take it 1 lap longer, never mind 3. This is inspired stuff by Dixon, to be fair.
I'm really looking forward to see how the second half of the race plays out.
Yeah, absolutely.
Chaz, because now that they've gone longer on the first instance, they've clearly been able to save fuel, not attack. We've got another yellow focus. I think that's because someone's come into the pits again. We're going to have to get used to seeing that. But Hakkinen, who has had the moment, is down in 8th position, and he's got some work to do again. Ontis is into the pits for his first of what we expect to see 3 stops from the DPi cars.
Yeah, absolutely. Just over an hour and a half left to go here in the 2.4 hours of Daytona, the first ranked event of the year on the wonderful platform of RaceRoom. And the wonderful platform is showing us these 2 Lamborghinis glued to each other. This is like Villeneuve and Pironi. This is many, many moons ago back at Imola. You're never going to know which one's which every time they come into shot, who's in front of who. They're going to keep swapping around. Hopefully they do talk to each other again after this, actually, because Villeneuve and Pironi didn't after that battle that day, and then they never would. Christian Grota is trying to stay just in front of all these Lamborghinis in there behind him. Nikola Latkovsky is in there somewhere in all of this. The 2 blue Lamborghinis, I think, have potentially swapped around. We'll have to wait and see. These cars all wearing liveries, I believe, from the DTM pack that we mentioned earlier, which is where the Lamborghini came into RaceRoom. It's the first Lamborghini to ever come into the game, and I can tell you it is Gitchy and Nikola Latkovsky, so they haven't swapped position. I must be just seeing things. Dixon, race leader into the pits, Tom.
Yep, he's in now, so he's been able to go at least 3 laps longer, I think, compared to those who came in before him. And Philippou into the lead now on merit. Yeah, so it's been that sort of race so far. DeBee up into 3rd, now 2nd place. He's gone a lot longer actually than Dixon. So I'm not saying he's going on a 2-stop. It's literally impossible to do it for him to do it on a 2. So it'll be a 3. But this is leaving him with a golden opportunity to just take it bit by bit and just continue to save fuel as he's doing, because he knows he's going to be coming up behind GT3 cars anyway. So there's no point rushing it in case you end up getting held up behind these cars when you're going at full speed and not really saving fuel. So he's clearly playing the long game here as DeBee.
Yeah, definitely. And to be fair, he can do a 2-stop, but he just won't finish the race. So it's definitely in his own interests, and that isn't, as he went down the inside of the Porsche of Gasper Me. I hope he was, he was probably hoping he'd miss him, to be fair, as he went down the inside there and just overcooked it slightly. I think lap traffic trying to play the game, as Farkas is off the road now as well. He's had a spin.
That's turn 6.
Yeah, he's really over-rotated the car there. But like I said at the top of the show, there's very bumpy curbs and things there, and Philippou is off the road, and he's into the wall as well. Christian Mikel went off there earlier, and now Philippou has said, you know what, this recovery drive thing's boring. I'm going to lob it at a barrier.
Well,
what on earth?
Yeah, we saw Michelle make that same mistake, didn't we? So we'll see what Filipao does. Will he come into the pits at the end of the lap? Because it looked like he hit the barrier and just rebounded back onto the circuit. So he might have damaged that machine. We'll see what happens now. The thing is, he won't want to pit here because he'll just fall out of sync compared to the leaders if he comes in. So he may as well just keep going for the time being. We won't be able, we can't see again what happened, but I could probably say that he's hit the wall very hard, and we could maybe have a look at his steering for the time being, so we can get an onboard of how his car is behaving. So it seems to be, well, it actually
looks a tiny bit right hand down, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does. Yeah, that's not ideal for him. So we'll just stay with it for the time being, just to see if it ends. Yeah, it's leaning towards the right, isn't it?
Yeah, only a tiny bit. I think the angle of the camera is I mean, it's not central to the car and does look left a bit, but it's definitely a little bit right hand down on the straights. But maybe it's something manageable. Maybe it's something that could be quickly fixed earlier on. I'm surprised at how much lock they put on as well, actually, through the hairpins in these machines. I know that often prototype cars can be considered quite clumsy in slow corners, and they're all about the downforce and high speed stuff. That's high speed stuff there with Van der Broek and the Porsche side by side, the BMW alongside the wonderful Roxy Porsche. Very, very close stuff. They're swapping positions one way then the other. Van der Broek, you can't just move over on him like that, sunshine. I don't even think he knew he was still there, to be honest. But wow, Van der Broek says, get out of the way in the BMW. Typical BMW driver, really, isn't he, Tom? And I can say that because I've got one.
Yeah, well, at least that battle is over for the time being. Hakkinen in 4th place ahead of Rebello. I don't know if he just got by him, actually, off that spin. He probably has done, has Hakkinen. He'll be closing on Farkas now, who had that moment. And you can
Porsche in the background, sorry. Me just absolutely clattered the barrier there. It's as if he was giving Van der Broek treatment to the wall, expecting it not to be there. Van der Broek goes deep, and that was good stuff by Casper Mee, because he had to back out that there, the Slovenian driver. And he says, you know what? I'm not going to go piling into the back of him. I know a lot of drivers there, Tom. Probably would have done.
Well, he would have been glad he had that gap in front of him, because otherwise he would have run into him had he been closer. So Mee is behind Van der Broek as they come round the banking before the front stretch. And will we see a change for position here? This may be for 15th position in the GT3 class, but there is still pride at stake. That's for absolutely certain. And so they come round towards turn number 1. And that battle seems to be over for now. And you can just see around the outside he comes. Can he get a good line out of it and a good exit? Well, he can, but he's not going to be anywhere near close to making a send. So Filippo's lead is over 5 seconds.
Doing a fantastic job now, isn't he, Filippo? Despite that mistake, he's still gaining time on DeBee. As well, DeBee's actually lost a bunch of time there, nearly 7/10 of a second just through the bus stop alone. Fan is off again. To be honest, I think Rob's here just for entertainment value now for us, Tom, and I'm hoping that the more times he hits that wall, it doesn't damage the car too much, because he's been off a few times through there. Just to be completely open with you all at home, they've just turned the studio lights off here at the Traction Studio, and it's lovely. I can see now, but it's almost like I've rubbed Vaseline in my eyes. Everything's gone blurry because it used to be so bright. But yeah, it's fantastic to be here at Traction HQ in Newcastle. You've got myself, Chaz Draycott, and Tom Cairns alongside me for the 2.4 hours of Daytona. Just over 90 minutes left in this race now, Tom. Nearly at an hour's point in this race, and plenty has gone on, hasn't it, in both classes?
Yeah, and it's not surprising to see mistakes over at the Le Mans chicane. We've seen it from the leaders. We saw Christian Michel have his incident, which cost him the lead and his race. Fan has been in the wars so many times. We want to go back to the battle for the lead in GT3, because we've come away from that for some time, and it's as we thought it was going to continue to be. This is Drace, who's behind Rosen and in front of Javosikov, who is not too far back. Mentioned the 2-car battle between Mikovic and Ribeiro for 4th place, and the 4-car battle for 6th position, which is also exciting to see. So there was plenty of battles left, right and centre. Will Jace decide to go for it? I don't think he is, I don't think any of the GT3s, have they pitted yet?
No, not at all. And I think these guys are playing the long game here as well, because they know the pace of Rosen is good. Drace and Dravosikov. I mean, Dravosikov doesn't seem like he's as urgent to get past the two ahead of them. He's definitely not on the same pace as them, despite the slipstream. But I think that he's just making it clear that they are going to play the long game. They're going to wait there. They're not going to go for it and make the moves. And it's the same here. We look at Ribeiro. Look, Thomas Ribeiro just giving a push to the back of Mikovic's Lamborghini. And he's just saying, look, that Huracan's a gorgeous race car to look at. I just want to really get a good idea of what it looks like. He wants to smell it by the time he's finished this stint. And he's just, at the end of the day, helping both of them out. He's transferring that slipstream effect to the car in front, isn't he? And it's the best thing to do.
Well, he's saying such an glue to him, well, stuck to him like glue, as Matej Mikovic is keeping him back for the time being. We shouldn't be too far away from pit stops involved in these. We expect them to probably do the 2-stop here, because we know that they're going to be lapped again by the leaders a number of times before this race. So we are 54 minutes into this race now, so it may be a time to even think about when to pit in. But there is Jesper Onses in the DPi Mazda, who is filtering his way through the traffic, and he's taking his time with it. And in front of him, the highest DPi ahead of him, that would be Felipe, who is running in 10th position behind Braun, although Braun has shooted further up the distance in 9th position. He's not got anyone to be fighting with at the present moment. And he stopped as well, didn't he? I think he pitted at the same time as Farkas and Hakkinen, and it's helped him a lot. And whether he can keep up with Verlapau, I think that's another question.
I thought you were going to go full Hamlet there with DeBee or not DeBee once again. But no, we've evaded that one.
I was thinking which Shakespearean play it came from.
It's not often you can quote Shakespeare during motorsport, actually, is it? It's not something we think about often. Anyway, Rui Felipe, top 10 at the moment for him, but in a class of, well, now 13 cars, he's not going to be too pleased with that at the moment. But let's not forget the calibre of these drivers here, Tom. These are the 36 best drivers in Europe on RaceRoom based on the ranking system at the moment. It's incredible to have such talent together, and it shows, just how close they all are. I mean, look at the top 5 in GT3s, less than 2.5 seconds separating them, and that's without pit stops as well. So there's not been pit stops to sort of blow the pack apart yet. And even in the DPIs, it's so close there too. 24 seconds cover the top 5 after an hour in pit stops, and the top 10's even more spread out now thanks to Rui Felipe, who's just gone off at turn 1.
He's lost time, but at least he's still ahead of Onsis, who's in 11th position. It'll be interesting to see how the GT3s get on in their pit stops. We can't really be too far away. I'd love to know what their fuel tanks are at this moment in time.
Nearly empty, I can tell.
Nearly empty, okay. Well, we hopefully that'll be something to watch later on anyway. And we're on lap 36 in DPi, lap 33 in GT3. And there is Rosen in the lead of that class still. He's been in the lead of that class for a number of laps now. I don't know how many laps to be exact, but it is the majority of the whole race. And you can just see Drace and Dravosikov in third place, and further behind are Mikovic and Ribeiro. And, this could well be one of those 5 winning GT3 this evening.
Just seeing there, Drace actually didn't even bother to bump draft the fellow Lamborghini down towards the bus stop. He got up to the back of him and then just backed out of it. They've got the DPIs there going through the mix as well. There's Felipe trying to make a move through around this traffic. Ribeiro still sat behind Mikovic. And I think it's a similar story there. Ribeiro's not going to have a go to try and get by as Farkas is now off.
Is that
I believe
Le Mans?
It will be. Hakkinen's just gone past him and moved up a place. And Farkas, recovering on the exit of the bus stop chicane. Well, we said at the top of the night, didn't we, Tom? It was going to be a problem corner. And these drivers have said, yeah, let's prove them right.
We'll see, have a look at Farkas' steering wheel, because I don't know if he's hit the barrier, which has affected the car's performance. But we've just seen Orban, who's gone through on the other DPi. That was coming. That was too close.
I think that was the curb, Tom. I think it was like he ran over a landmine all of a sudden. That curb absolutely lobbed the left rear up in the air. Just properly chucked it around. I'm not sure if he had a tap or not there, because I think it looked like he was carrying more speed in than the car behind him. He seems all right, because I think the thing is, there's a huge tyre barrier there, isn't there, with a very sharp corner on it that they're all very close to catching. I think he got away with that there, did Orban.
Well, I want to have a look at Farkas' steering, because I can't imagine it have done too good after the clout with the barrier. It seems to be alright so far. There's another yellow flag, but I think that's because there's a car coming into the pits. Seems to be alright so far, actually, thinking of it.
Yeah, looks alright for Farkas. Again, I think these cars are quite showing that they're quite resilient at the moment. Milan Gicci is the first car down pit lane. Now, he was in the thick of some of the battles earlier as well. He had a little bit of clean air in front of him at one point, so he's not had as much chance to save fuel compared to the likes of Drace and Dravosikov. I'm interested by how far Rosen goes here. I think Rosen's definitely going to be going at least 1 lap less than these other cars because the Lamborghinis and, well, I say that like it's only Lamborghinis and GT3s, it seems like it, but with the GT3 cars, they obviously have a lot more endurance in the tank for a race like this. They've gone for nearly an hour now, or just over an hour, so it's a bigger window for them to all pit in, and obviously with the different manufacturers as well. And look there, just as we expected, Rosen into the pits, the cars behind not needing to pit yet because they've sat behind him for so long, they've saved fuel. I'm intrigued by the fact Ribeiro's come into the pits though, Tom.
Side by side with Mikovic as they enter, and hopefully he hasn't picked up a speeding penalty considering how close he got up behind in there. It's into his box now. We'll see if there's a change of position between those three by the time they come out. But Rosen needs a strong pit stop to get back out in front of Drace and Dravosikov. There is DeBee looking to get through that BMW there on the inside there. He got through eventually, although he got through later than they would have liked to have done.
Yeah, definitely. I think, to be fair, he was about as urgent to not look at the back of it as I would be to not look at the front of it, to be honest with you. He absolutely lobbed it up the inside, almost found himself on the grass, and it's really scary into there. If you do touch the grass a tiny bit, let's not forget, these cars are all on slicks, so as soon as you touch any bit of grass or anything that's not the preferred racing surface, when you're on the brakes from such high speed, in a car like the DPi, you'll find yourself in the fence before you know it, and it's a big old tyre barrier down there as well, which you could very easily bury one of these Mazdas underneath. They're not the strongest cars in the world. They've shown to be pretty versatile and pretty resilient so far with how many of them have been off at the bus stop, but right now it's intriguing to see how many of them are willing to fall by the wayside. Orban all over the back of Braun right now. Braun running in, I believe, the factory colours for Mazda from that season, just this dark red was their livery that they had. They had this gorgeous, dark, metallic red livery on the car in its early days. I believe they always ran the number 55 as well. It's always a number that's been synonymous with Mazda's program, similar to how Ferrari always run the, I think it's the 51, and then Lamborghini run the 63 very often on their cars as well. Mazda have always had number 55 in this gorgeous dark red colour. Side by side now then, as Orban goes round the outside. Who's going to be the one to back out of this? Yes, Orban goes round the outside. GT3 leaders into the pits then, Tom, Dravosikov and Drace.
A retirement in DPi involving Rui Felipe. He is the second DPi to pull out of the race.
He's there. He's halfway across the pit lane. Felipe is parked at like 45 degrees to his box.
I think that's how they're supposed to be when they come back into the pits via the menu or something, but that's his race effectively over. Bo Dixon in 7th place in DPi. He's had a promising race so far. He stayed out longer than the leaders of who came in, which could play into his hands later should he decide to just get the hammer down and go after them. But he has got a lot of ground to make up still at the moment. More GT3s coming into the pits for their first stops.
Yeah, intriguing now to see how Grota gets on here. Drace is flying down the pit lane, and by flying I mean, comparison to standstill. Rosen is now flying quite literally down the start-finish straight, through past the stripe, and we'll see how he gets on here with the likes of Dravosikov and Drace ahead of him. There they are coming out of the pit lane. They're going to be on the inside line. Just depends how quickly they can get the hammer down. They've got a long old section there to those white and red boards before they can take the pit limiters off and get moving. And yeah, that's really good stuff from Rosen. He's actually gained up a lot of time, and Mikovic has had the pair of them, yeah.
Yep, so that undercut played into Mikovic's hands, and so he's up into 2nd place on merit. Rosen out in front, clear. So by pitting him sooner in the GT3s has proved to be the best strategy so far. Ribeiro is still quite some way behind. We've got more GT3s coming into the pits, hence why you just saw the yellow flag flickering there of Sector 3, but nothing we can do about that. Ilya Dravosikov in 4th place behind Drace, who has got his work cut out now to try and go after. We've got a spin for involving Bruce Harris at the Le Mans chicane, so that's him in the Lamborghini going off there. Hopefully no damage done to that machine.
It didn't look like he was at wall's distance. At least he might have just dropped it on the way into the corner, slammed on the brakes, locked up all fours, and just done a lovely little pirouette on the grass there to get back going again. But yeah, great stuff from Matej Mikovic to jump all those other cars in the pits. I'm intrigued at how he's done that, because I wonder whether, if they're having multiple stints, they know as well, and this is an element of the race that we could consider at this point now. They know that the shorter stint at the end will obviously, they'll not go a full hour, excuse you, will not go a full hour in the last stint of the race for these drivers. I wonder whether he's put less fuel in now. He's done the first stint, so he's calculated how much the car's going to use over a certain period of time. he's thought, right, I'll have this much at the end. So he's done a shorter stop now to do a short middle stint and then go for a longer final stint just to get track position.
Well, there's a little bit of handbags going on between Van der Broek and...
Everyone.
Everyone.
Yeah, Van der Broek has hit just about every car there is in GT3s.
It's Bruce Harris. I thought it would be Bruce Harris because we just saw him have that spin. But he's just allowed Van der Broek through. I don't think that's going to be the last of see that battle because it looks like Bruce Harris is the kind of driver who just wants to get his elbows out. So hopefully if he can stay in touch with him, stay in the slipstream through the back stretch, he might be able to get a run on him out of Le Mans and through the front stretch. So we'll just stay with this battle for the time being. We know there are other battles going on at the moment, but we want to see whether Harris can recover after that mistake.
To be fair, I'm surprised the BMW isn't Van der Broek after the amount of contact that it's had with other drivers, because he seems to be the one that, I mean, you said Harris gets his elbows out, but Van der Broek, he's not scared of leaving no room at all. Not necessarily saying he's having a bad race, but he's certainly one of the livelier drivers in the field. I'm not sure whether that's just because the BMW is the size of a cruise ship compared to the Lamborghini or not, but yeah, we'll see whether it survives the race, because he's definitely having a lively one. And you know what, it's always great to have that sort of character in a race, isn't it? Especially in endurance racing, where it's always about the long game and keeping it tidy throughout.
We want to go to the battle for the lead in GT3. I know we did, so we're watching that battle, but now Rosen and Mikovic are nose to tail as they are heading round the circuit. We're looking at Norms, who's in 18th position in GT3, but we want to look at the battle for the lead here. There we see Mikovic has closed down the gap on Rosen since the pit stops. If you remember, he pitted in later than Rosen, which has given him a bit more of an advantage as far as fuel is concerned.
I think he's taken less, you know. I think he's on a he's in a much lighter Lamborghini right now than Rosen. I think he's tried to do a shorter stint in the middle, which is why he's jumped the other cars behind and all of a sudden got incredible pace compared to the leader. He didn't have this pace in his earlier stint, so I think he's tried to flip the coin on its head here.
Well, Norms has just allowed Ziska through. I don't know if he's carrying a problem, is Norms, because that was not a genuine overtake. That looked more like a leisurely manner.
I don't know. I thought Ziska was still in front of him earlier when we came to them at the Horseshoe. He had a Turner BMW ahead of him then as well. I'm not sure if he's just sitting behind. He definitely let that DPi go. He's got no choice. We've got a Reco on screen right now. Car in front is the gorgeous Manthey Porsche that races in DTM. The FAF Porsche, the red machine, is actually wearing the IMSA branding. That's Van Vollevan, or whatever his name is, in the Manthey machine. His name gets cut off, forgive me. Areco goes through though and gains another position as they now try and stay away from the DPIs. Ontis going around the outside. Two fantastic and, well, almost synonymous Porsche liveries. Is his second in the DPIs, Tom.
Yep, there he's hacking him around the outside of DeBay. That was a splendid overtake there.
Lovely.
Nicely done. And exactly what he needed to do. And he's got 11 seconds to make up on Filippo as Hakkinen, who has had at least 2 spins in this race. And now he's got to make up for lost time and try and get back. Now we're going back to the lead in GT3s because Rosen and Mikovic are still together. Drace and Dravozikov are still thereabouts, but these two have been fighting since the pit stops had been done. And going back to what I was saying about fuel saving, bump drafting or the slipstream, it's kind of like Formula E mode where if you're tucked up behind someone in the slipstream, you're not having to use as much energy in the car. And it's the same thing with the fuel with these GT3s.
Yeah, absolutely. At the end of the day, pedal down more equals boom, go louder and faster and stuff. So these guys, you know, they don't have to worry about that so much if the air is so distorted in front of them and it's spread apart by the massive wings on these GT3 cars. At the end of the day, like I said before, they're sort of transferring that additional speed that they gain from the slipstream to the car in front. By doing that, it's the, you know, ideal way to cooperate with another driver. It's the epitome of cooperation in motorsport, is bump drafting. So long as you don't absolutely wallop the back of the car in front. I was racing in an event just last week where we were in the delightful Formula Fords, and anyone knows a Formula Ford, I mean, it's a kazoo with wheels, but you don't want to bump draft in something like that because the nose is that low, you will just lift the other car off the floor. It seems like people weren't aware of that and I got lobbed into a barrier. But yeah, that was a bit scary there because the DPIs are now lapping the GT3s, which are also lapping the GT3s here, Tom. So Rosen and Mikovic are coming up on cars that are of similar capability, but at the back end of their own class. This could get spicy.
Well, Rosen will know that Van Volleverder should allow through. Varkas has had another spin, and that's not the first time we've seen him spin there.
No, he's absolutely piled it into the barrier again by the look of it. We'll have to see how he gets on, whether he brings it into the pit lane or not. Again, it's interesting because they don't seem to be far away from the wall, but they don't seem to have always clouted that little corner on the way in, and I think that part of the tyre barrier is possibly the worst bit to hit. Drace there very sideways through the bus stop. Dravosikov says, I don't want any of that, thank you very much. It's as if the Lamborghini isn't flamboyant enough anyway. He has to give it a lovely bit of drifting through that bus stop chicane. Ribeiro still in 5th, and the Audi has dropped a long way off these guys, so Dravosikov will be a little bit more grateful now, I think, to not have a car right up behind him. Although, no, apologies. It was Mikovic that had Ribeiro behind him, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Earlier on. So he'll be glad now to be focusing on a car in front and not behind.
Well, Mikovic was within a 10th off Rosen, but that battle seems to have... well, the gap has spread out a little bit more now, and that's because they're going through the road section of the course. I think it's a matter of time before Mikovic decides that, do you know what, I've had enough of sitting behind you, I just want to go through. But is he actually... did he take a lighter fuel though compared to the leaders? He could well have done, hence why he was able to complete that undercut and gain so much time.
Yeah.
But did he really need to take a lighter fuel load? Do you reckon? Could he have gone on a longer second stint?
I think so, but he had such a rinse and repeat first stint with just putting in as quick a lap as he could, and he had Ribeiro with him the whole time. This could throw Ribeiro's race up in the air, because all of a sudden he's come back out expecting to be glued to this Lamborghini again, and he's got nobody around him as Ribeiro. He's all on his own in the Audi, and he, as a result, is now going to be using more fuel than he did in the earlier stint. There he is, look, nobody anywhere near him in this R8 right now, and Mikovic has put himself further up the order with a shorter stop that's put himself in a position for him to get the slipstream rather than give it to another car. So this could work out, because he's obviously given himself track position by having a shorter stop, which means now he's in the slipstream, he will save a bit more fuel in this part of the race, and then have, you know, he's still got to do a longer stint at the end, but he's shortening it every lap that he sits behind Rosen right now. So he's really playing the big picture very, very well, I'd say, is Mikovic.
And I suppose he's got that buffer over Drace and Dravosikov behind. And
yeah.
We've got other GT3 cars which need to go. Just Osikov, who I think he's probably doing the same things what Mikovic is doing. It's just ways. You just see he's nudging him forward. It's almost like being in a dinner queue in school and just nudging everyone forward because you're so desperate to get to the front because you're never like waiting behind. That's kind of like what Dravosikov is going through his mind at the moment, saying, "Can you just hurry up? I want to grab my dinner," that type of thing. But no, he's sitting in behind. He's playing the long game, and he'll be hoping that he can get the best out of the strategy that he's doing. You just see Orban.
That's the leader.
Yeah, that's too impatient there from Orban, and that will not please Rosen one bit.
I don't know. I don't know if Rosen just didn't expect him to be completely down the inside there, or whether it was late from Orban, but either way, they're both going to be a little bit miffed with that one. Orban at least gets to carry on, Rosen gets to carry on, but Mikovic will see that and think, maybe Orban's a little bit unsettled. I think Mikovic has made it clear, though, at this point, that he's not trying to get past Rosen just yet. He might do in a little bit, but I think right now he's playing the fuel game here. He's playing numbers, isn't he?
We've reached the halfway point of this 2.4 hours Daytona event for RaceRoom of 2025. And so Filippo in the lead by over 7 seconds over Tuukka Hakkinen. And in GT3 you've got Rosen, the man from Israel, ahead of Mikovic, chasing him. You could just see in your picture, you don't need to tell us what the gap is. Those are the two cars of which you need to know. Mikovic is just playing the long game, as we've been saying time and time again. There is Orban, who is going through by the looks of things. I think that's another DPi. He's gone. Oh no, it is Bo Dixon. That's for position. Orban's gone through ahead of Dixon for genuine race position, unless Dixon decides, you know what, I'm just going to sit in behind and just allow you to shoot further and further up the road and just try and save fuel.
Yeah, I think at this stage, if you're going to catch a car that quickly in a section like that, you have to give it then a few corners, see what their pace is like in this middle part of the course, because at the end of the day, if you're on a similar pace here and you're not losing a lot of time sitting behind them, at the end of the day you may as well use them for slipstream for the rest of the lap as well, because if you try and spend a lot of your time battling with them and just shedding time lap after lap in the big picture, how many times have we all seen a long endurance race, even longer than this, 6, 10, 12, even 24 hours, come down to less than a second in the end. If you shed 1 second of one of these laps here, regardless of what happens in front of you, that could affect your race tenfold by the end of this. So I think Dixon, he needs to assess this and just see whether he can sit behind Orban, but I mean, Orban's cleared off in that section, actually. It's quite the opposite of what we expected. Look at that.
Well, if you remember, Dixon went 3 laps longer than the likes of Hakkinen, Farkas and all that came in. So I don't know what exactly he's trying to play with here. I don't know whether he took on less fuel compared to what most have done, or whether he's gone for a full tank. But we'll wait and see it later. Turkey Hakkinen in second place right now. Less than 7 seconds off the lead and closing down the gate. It doesn't look like Villepeu has had the best of laps so far. I want to know why that is. Has he got stuck in traffic? I wonder. We'll find out. Because he's going through turn 6 now. He's going through that. I don't know if he's saving fuel at the moment, is Villepeu, because he feels that he can afford to do that.
I don't know whether Hakkinen's just pushing harder at the moment. He's gaining half a second a lap at this present moment. So I think maybe Enzo, after having the spin earlier on, it's knocked his confidence a little bit, because let's not forget, when you're in a car that's as lively and twitchy as this and you're going through sections like the bus stop chicane, it can be very, very easy to put it in the wall, as we've seen many drivers do over the course of this race. I wonder whether Hakkinen, sans an issue like that, is just able to push that bit harder at this stage, and Villepeu is holding back slightly. I'm not sure. It's a bit of a guessing game here, but this is one of the best things about being a commentator. It keeps you speculating, not just for the audience at home when a race is going on like this, but it keeps you speculating for your own sanity as well, just to try and figure out what everybody's doing.
Absolutely. Orban we're looking at now, who's in 7th position. We looked at Arthur Gra, who we've hardly spoken about in this race. He's got a yellow flag, and we'll find out who that is in a moment. Is that GT3 going around? It's Nikola Lukovsky, who's had a brilliant race up until his spin at turn 1. And that has not lost him any positions, I believe, but it certainly has lost him ground. Yeah, it's just time to Thomas Ribeiro in 5th place.
I think Gra, to be honest, with the way his race is going, he'll hope it's Mardi Gras by the time he gets home, because he's definitely not having an easy time at this. Everybody in the room has just done a collective sigh. I am sorry, all right?
Including me.
Yeah. But it's one of those things. Villepeu and Hakkinen then, 5.2 seconds. Look, I can talk about the race if you want. There's less than 5 seconds between the leaders now, and Gra getting some gratuitous airtime. No, Villepeu is just having this bit of an accordion effect here with Hakkinen behind, isn't he? He's sort of closing in certain parts of the circuit, then losing time again. It's just like there's a bungee cord attached to the back of that lead DPi, isn't there? Yeah,
well, he's gaining more and more as every lap has gone by. I think it's something like half a second he's gained on Villepeu at every lap. But when you see him going down these stretches, it feels like he's just gaining constantly. But when you go through Le Mans, like he's done there, he's losing time.
Yeah, he had a right old wiggle on the way into Le Mans as well, didn't he? The car didn't want to behave itself. Nice stuff from Porsche there, actually, to move out of the way. And just look at the speed difference there as he goes around Ribeiro's Audi. This thing is an absolute missile, isn't it? Although I was saying just before the broadcast, in the Mazda sort of factory colours and in the darker colour schemes that it raced in for a long time, it looked very sleek and beautiful. And it still does in these liveries here, but it really highlights that sort of suckerfish-like mouth on the front of it, doesn't it? It's got this really strange gob about it, where it looks like it's just trying to breathe in all of the tarmac that it's racing along. These are the factory colours, nicely picked up by production, for Frida Braun in this gorgeous red. I said earlier just how lovely this red was on the real thing. And in the, well, I was going to say sunshine of Daytona, but it's gotten a bit overcast now. It certainly looks great. But on some of these darker colour schemes here, maybe not so much of that fish gob on the front of it. Arthur Gra in 7th place now, with Orban right in front, is, well, probably grateful that he's not looking at the front of the car. Oh, hello, he had a bit of a dip down under the apron there. Sparks go flying. Maybe a bright yellow line, Tom, but people can still go below it, can't they?
Yeah, they can. And Arthur Gra is behind what looks like Orban, who just overtaken him, actually, not too long ago. So Gra will just want to stay in touch. Yellow flag in sector 3, and it's the 3rd place man in DPi, Rokas DeB, who has gone round, unfortunately. He keeps hold of 3rd place for now, but he's lost time.
Yeah, if you told me it was 3rd place, I'd say, well, it's got to be him. And he's gone around and lost even more time to Farkas and Rebello behind. Rebello up into 5th position at the minute. Having a pretty solid run, to be fair. He's had what a driver would want in a race like this, actually. No news is good news at the present moment, isn't it?
Yeah. Well, Dravoskov is in the battle with Drace, while Mikovic is in the battle with Rosen. Oh,
that's a little bit of a connection blip there for both of them. We have to get used to that in esports and sim racing. It's often a bit of a difficult thing as a commentator is to justify those, but it happens. It's what happens in online racing. We've all seen netcode, we've all seen disconnections. We often put it down to, actually, when you get a disconnect, there's a car going slowly there. Oh, that's one of the Lamborghinis further down, I think. But what we often see, Tom, is, if you have a connection or hardware failure or whatever, they leave reliability in races like this down to the actual hardware, the connections of the people in the race, don't they? Rather than, you know, the sim saying, oh no, you've had an engine failure, because there'll always be somebody that complains that it's unfair.
Yeah. And for those who have tuned in, we do welcome you. Do let us know who you're cheering for as well. We've got a yellow flag in the Phoenix Rebello, who's coming in for the second time. This is his second stop of the race. So we're starting to see the second round of stops involving the DPi drivers. So Rebello is in, and he'll be aiming to go to the end of the race. I'd like to think it will be the end, because this is his second. So he may be doing 3, actually,
Yeah, I think we'll get another one out of them yet, I think. Just near the end. It'll be a splash and dash situation, I think, but it'll be much shorter than the stints they're doing now.
So Philip out in the lead still. The margin 6.5 seconds over Turka hacking the base, getting caught up in traffic here. That is Redeemed Tokar, the man from the Czech Republic, getting out of the way. Tokar, who is in a battle with another GT3.
Was that Van der Broek's BMW, was it?
It may well be. Yeah, it's Van der Broek's BMW who's ahead of him. So they're in a battle for 12th place on track, these two. Now, we are looking to see whether...
Look at the slipstream.
I mean, it's almost like they're in a different... The car behind is in a different league, isn't it?
That's crazy. That's actually one of the prettiest cars in the field, that actually. That livery on Radim Tokar's Audi is absolutely gorgeous. Lovely looking race car. I believe it's one of the Nürburgring 24 entrants with the Scherer branding on the side of it, and it's going to have, well, it's going to have whatever branding's on the side of Van der Broek's car on it now and all. It's a good thing it's blue. You won't be able to tell who the guilty party is. Have a bit of that, he says. You like the vinyl on this? Yeah, taste it, son. Unbelievable stuff. But Van der Broek, once again, lobbing that BMW at everything.
It looks like Van der Broek wasn't aware that he was trying to get alongside. I think it was accidental anyway.
Oh, yeah. There's nothing malicious in anything Van der Broek's doing. He's just seemingly, there's magnets all over it. Is it me, or is that BMW even uglier than normal?
Well, it looks like half of the bonnet is hanging out. If you just look carefully on that, I don't know if you can get a close-up of that, but it looks like half of the bonnet has come loose. It does not look like a bonnet which you would see on every day of the week.
No, and to be honest, I mean, anything's an improvement on how that BMW normally looks anyway, but yeah, I'm sure that Alex Mosin will not be happy about the fact that it's going to feel a little bit second-hand at this stage. It's a lovely livery, the Shell-branded car, but yeah, he's all over the back of Roche right now, and he's trying to, he's just trying to help, because there's another car just up the road, isn't there? Gitchy is actually 14 seconds clear, so that car ahead of them is not for position, the Turner-branded BMW. So Gitchy is way further up the road in the Lamborghini, about 14 seconds. So I'm intrigued that Mosin has been able to carry on there, actually. It's not disturbing his view too much. So, yeah, maybe it's just a bit more cosmetic than actually plays through the wheel.
Well, Areco's had a spin in the GT3, hence why he's got... there's a yellow... And that's a strange place to have a spin at. I don't know if he's had a spin and it stopped.
I wonder if he's had help to get there, whether there's somebody down the inside, because it's quite late on in the corner, that, isn't it?
Yeah, that's a very strange place. Or he's had the spin to begin with and then just gone off there. I don't know if his sim's gone weird or something. That could explain why he's parked there, but we'll find out maybe a little bit later on. But Van der Broek in 12th place in the BM... Is that BM?
Yeah, the M4.
Yeah, it's the M4,
You should be able to tell because of how ugly it is. It's the worst looking GT3 car BMW I've ever done. Yeah. In my opinion. Sorry. I mean, you look back at BMWs, I said it at the top of the show, you know, they've got this incredible ability of BMW to make unlikely GT cars be really, really successful. Look at the M8, you know, it was the size of a building in the past, and it was still somehow really competitive in IMSA and the World Le Mans Series. And then you've got the likes of the M6, which won the Nürburgring 24 Hours. I was lucky enough to commentate on the 2020 Nürburgring 24 Hours. I know you didn't ask, but it won that year for the Rowe Racing Team. And, you know, it was such an unlikely car to win. There were so many Audis, Lamborghinis, Mercedes and things that could beat it. And the M6 worked. Going even further back, look at the success of the Z4. The GT2 and GT3 versions of the Z4 were just amazing race cars. But again, not supercars like Lamborghini Huracans or Ferrari 296s, which is a shame we don't really see in this race, actually, the Ferrari. But the BMWs they have this ability to be competitive everywhere, all the time. Unless Van der Broek's driving it and he smashes it into everything. But you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Philip Howe into the pits.
So Philip Howe is the first of the leaders, I would say, of DPi to come in. Turkakin takes over leadership for now. We've got a spin involving Rosen, who's had his first moment of the race, or is that a connection problem?
I think Rosen has had Yeah, potentially a connection-based drama there, because you could see just for a second he flicked back above everybody in the timing, and he's still doing so. Well, so fingers crossed that can stabilise a little bit, and we'll come back to Rosen when it's stable, because at the end of the day, if we chose to look at that car right now, it would just flicker away on screen and you wouldn't see a car. So there's nothing for us to show you in that regard yet. We'll wait and see whether he does reappear, but that could be big drama, Tom, because he's led pretty much all of this race. He's actually showing up as DNF now. Yeah. So Rosen out of the race after leading so much of it. The pressure from Mikovic, I really hope there wasn't contact between the two, but yeah, the pressure from Mikovic has paid off and the blue Lamborghini leads the way.
He is. How far can he go? Areco did not recover from the spin that he had and pull off, so his race is over 5 cars out then. 2 from DPi and 3 from GT3. Hakkinen leads the way in DPi, but he's yet to come in for his second stop. Mikovic in the lead for the time being. Well, he's in the lead now because of the latest retirement of Rosen, which is a terrible shame. But now it seems to be that it's Mikovic's race to lose. But Drace and Javotsikov are by no means out of the equation.
No, definitely not. They're only a second or so back, and with just a fortunate run at the end of this race, they could be the ones battling for the lead, because you never know how Mikovic's second pit stop is going to pan out for him at the end of the day. If he's gone for a shorter stint in the middle of the race, that means the last stint will be longer, the last pit stop will be longer as well. So we'll see how it balances out in the end, but this is endurance racing. This is one of the best things of it. You can speculate and wonder until the cows come home, but until the drivers actually do it, in sim racing and especially, you never really know, because, you know, Tom, if this was real world racing, we'd have pit crews and teams to be able to speak to and get information from. These drivers, a lot of the time, they are lone wolves when they're doing this. They are the only ones we could get the info from, and right now, we can't, and to be honest, I don't want to, because I want to keep speculating until the end. Just an update as well, Matej Mikovic was 1.5 seconds behind our race leader when the incident occurred, so my speculation of contact can be thrown out of the window and onto the train tracks here in Newcastle.
Well, Javotsikov is all over the rear of Drace as they head towards turn number 1, as they come off the banking. We've got more cars in the pits, we've got Auburn also in. Dixon continues to stay out there, which is no surprise because he pitted in later than the leaders did the first time around. And Javotsikov, well, he's fancying a go on Drace at some point, but he's been stuck behind him for ages. I just wonder when he may decide to go for it, because he's saved enough fuel now, I think, being stuck behind him for that long, to the point where he may end up starting to lose ground.
Yeah, I think so. I think he's just... I think he's playing the long game here and waiting for the final pit stop, and that's going to be it. He'll be able to take less fuel in the final stop, maybe go a lap or two longer, maybe even go a lap shorter after what he saw earlier on from Rosen. We'll have to wait and see, but yeah, I think he's definitely playing the long game. It's clear that in the slipstream he could go by and make the move, but at this in this current situation, he's absolutely not doing so. We look here at Rokas DB. Currently in third place, running a little bit deep into the second horseshoe there as Filipao is right behind.
Well, he's done an overcut on Filipao, Chaz. He's got ahead of him by staying out longer, which is interesting because usually the undercut is the way to go about it. But DeBay has done the opposite and has defied the odds. So he's into a net race lead, essentially, because Dixon and Hakkinen are still... Well, Hakkinen's still in the pits at the moment. He's in now, is Turka Hakkinen. Dixon, we expect him to go a little bit longer before he pits in for the second time. We were looking at the battle for second place in GT3. Drace and Javotsikov going through the banking before the front stretch. You can just see how swift the effect is of the slipstream. Javotsikov once again giving Drace the nudge. It's almost like Drace is expecting, it's almost like a massage, isn't it? Just all the way down the pit straight and saying, right, I had enough, right, you get on with it now, and I'll come after you, and, you know, repeat the feat next time around when they go onto the stretches.
I wonder if that is a motorsport themed spa you can go to where they rub the front end of a Lamborghini against you. It sounds like one's just gone past outside. Sorry. Oh, Mikovic. Mikovic has had some sort of drama there. He's dropping down as well.
He's had the same as...
what's his face?
Yeah.
Rosen. Yeah.
Rosen, that's it.
Well, ironically, Rosen has fallen through the scenery by the look of it, so... I'm wondering, is Mikovic going to be the latest retirement of this race? Drace and Javotsikov now, first and second in class. I'm intrigued to see what comes of this, and yeah, it does look like there are drivers, Mikovic in particular, dropping down the pack. And just to highlight as well, for those of you that haven't picked up on it at the moment, the little green dots next to the drivers' names, that shows you how many pit stops they've done, or whether they are currently in the pits, which is why Tom was able to point out to even me, that didn't understand it at first, that DeBee has done his second pit stop, and so too has Filipao. But right now, we've got a battle on our hands for the class lead. And I don't know what it is about that lead Lamborghini at the present moment, Tom. It's making me really hungry.
Cisco's had a spin also, and he's out of the race now, so we're losing drivers more and more frequently. Cisco's the latest to go, the 5th GT3 driver to retire from the race. We've got 55 minutes to go. The DPIs are on their 54th lap. The GT3s are on their 49th lap. DeBee running in second place, only just ahead of Enzo Filipao as they get through that Lamborghini in front. Very important to do so. But it looks like Filipao isn't hanging around here, or is he?
I don't know. He might just, like I said before about Dixon, he might just give it a lap or so just to see what DeBee's pace is like on the infield. Because at the end of the day, he's come back out on the circuit.
They're coming up to the 2nd and 3rd place drivers in GT3
they
as well.
are.
Yeah. Oh, they're the leaders. They're the leaders now.
Yes,
those
they
two.
are.
Yeah, so the leaders of DPi are effectively through. There's
that's
Orban.
Whoa, hello. That was not
dangerous.
the most savourable rejoin by the others,
No,
but
it's not.
at the end of
That
the
was
day,
not
he's
safe
all right.
rejoin
And
at all.
through goes Filipao on the left-hand side, and that is going to be net race lead returned, or is it? He goes a little bit deep, and DeBee back down the inside. Filipao wants to cut back to the inside line, but there's a car there, so you can't do that, sunshine. DeBee puts his car in the right place at the right time, gets back into the lead of this race, and this is the thing now, Tom, they need to keep their heads here because there's still 54 minutes left in this race. They can't let it get to him here as Filipao back down the inside finds a gap. He knows that DeBee goes deep there. He did it earlier on. He's made it work this time round.
That move from DeBee at the horseshoe was so robust but so fair at the same time, and that's the kind of driving I want to see in this race. Filipao will know that too well now, and Dixon, who's staying out there, he's still yet to stop. I can't remember what lap the drivers of DeBee, Filipao and Hacken came in, but I can imagine Dixon will be further now on his second stint to extend the amount of laps he's had compared to the leaders in the pit strategy. But there goes Filipao on
Nice.
DeBee.
Lovely stuff. Very, very close to the line there for Filipao. But he makes it through, takes the net race lead here. They're going past Van der Broek and another one of the DPIs. I think that's Rob Fan just moving out to the right-hand side. Good stuff from him, being well-behaved lap traffic. Dravosikov is now ahead of Drace as well through all of that. So he's decided to put the hammer down, get around that black and gold Lamborghini that, like I said, was making me very, very hungry earlier on. But now Dravosikov has finally got clear air in front of him.
Yeah, very nicely done there for Dravosikov into the lead at last. Now ahead of Drace. Thomas Ribeiro in 3rd position, and it's Nikola Lukovsky in 4th. All 5 of them have yet to come in for their second stops, but they, in terms of the timing of their stops, will be different into DPIs because they won't be consuming as much fuel. So they are expected to make one more pit stop in this race. Filipao, DeBee, Hacken and all that in DPIs are expected to do one more, while Dixon and Braun, who are in 1st and 4th places, are expected to do 2 more stops.
Yeah, we've got Drace back up behind Dravosikov though, so it's not like he's cleared him and disappeared over the horizon, is it? He's right there in the mix still, and now he gets to sort of return the favour a little bit and rub it in and be like, look, it's not nice when you've got a Lamborghini filling your mirrors completely, is it? Especially a black and gold one like that. It's not quite as glaring and in your face as Dravosikov's car, but he's still going to be filling the mirrors tenfold throughout the remainder of this stint now, and it puts the shoe on the other foot. He can now save fuel in all of this.
Well, DeBee's on the tail of Filipao again as they head towards Le Mans. Can he get a strong exit? Well, he's gone in too deep into the first part of Le Mans, which will compromise his exit. He carried too much speed into the apex, and it's cost him any form of chance to just stay in touch with him. And that's allowed well, it's another DPI. I think that's a lap down. That's Orban, who's had that spin at turn 1, didn't he? And is he going to give him the nudge?
Using all the power of that one headlight to push the B forward right up behind Filipao. And you know what? He's done the right thing there. He's actually backed out of that. He says, look, I don't want to affect your race too much. They go down the inside of the Liqui branded BMW. And B, he's been going deep into a few corners here, hasn't he, Tom?
Yeah.
He's gone very deep into turn 1 there. Nearly clips the back of Filipao.
Well, he may need to catch Filipao by surprise here, but he's got to do it sensibly. He can't do it too aggressively for obvious reasons. And where is he going to do it? Is he going to maybe do it on the exit of Le Mans? It's not close enough to do it around here, that's for certain. But Dixon's lead is 8 seconds on this lot. His tyres will be fading away. And I think Dixon's pit stop came around at lap 29, didn't he? We're on lap 57, so he'll be on his 28th lap of his second stint.
Yeah.
So he'll probably do at least one more lap before he comes in for his second stop. But this is the battle for second place on track. Effectively the lead in DPI between Filipao and DeBee. DeBee dropping back all the time. But he may get a helping hand from Orban, who's a lap down. to just giving a Mazda massage to go down the backstretch. Yes, I am coming out of a punt now. I know Chaz has been doing that all evening. But Orban is trying to find a way through himself to be, well, if he can get his Le Mans chicane correct this time, wasn't the best.
No, he was a little bit deep in the second part, wasn't he? Yeah, it didn't work out for him that time. Not sure I'd want a massage from the front of that thing, to be honest. You get sucked into it, you'd never get out. But Philippou, well, he's got out of the slipstream, hasn't he? Because he's opened up a gap under B. And, actually, no, it's only about half a second, actually. It looks a lot more. But look at the push that he's getting. Look at that. Incredible stuff. Orban says, go on, son, you have a go at him. It's almost like he's helping him along and saying, yeah, go on, after you. I'm enjoying this fight. I'm going to sit here. He's got his popcorn ready. He's got his one headlight. And, DeBee. Again, DeBee goes too deep. Orban doesn't need to get involved with that. No. He's gone from helping him as much as he could to suddenly hindering him. That was, I mean, you've got to think about number one a lot of the time, but that was stepping over the line a little bit there, Tom.
Yeah, well, it almost looked like Orban was trying to bully DeBee to just say, get on with it and go after him.
Yeah,
you know I'm quicker than you, so how about you get on with it and go after Philippou? That's what Orban will be thinking inside. But, DeBee and Philippou are still there. They're closing in on Dixon, who is unsurprisingly struggling on his old set, his second set of tyres in this race. I would expect him to be in the pits at the end of this lap, but we'll find out in a moment.
Well, we're wondering. I mean, production have let us know, thankfully. Thank you, guys. That he's now 6 laps over on his whole stint compared to these guys. And I wonder whether he's not been in as much slipstream in this stint, so I don't think he can save enough fuel this time round compared to what he did in the first stint of the race. But I wonder whether he can extend this stint as well and add a few more laps onto that. He might even not need to stop as many times as these guys if he stretches it enough. It's a brave strategy, and it's one that could work, but at the end of the day, we won't know until the very end. He knows how much fuel he's got. We don't. Now, here is Orban pushing DeBee, pushing Philippou. This is one really long Mazda right now. It's a fantastic looking bit of kit in these striking liveries. And there we go. Bo Dixon into the pits, as Tom called it. And now Philippou re-inherits the lead. But it's not like he's got a lot of daylight between himself and DeBee.
Well, Philippou and DeBee can get on with their own race now and stop thinking about Dixon for the time being. Braun, who has only made one stop in this one, has he decided to stay out there? No, it looks like he is in as well. It did say he was going through a yellow, but that was because he slowed down to his mark. So he's now in. Hacken goes back into 3rd place. Where do Dixon and Braun rejoin? Well, Dixon should remain relatively in 4th place or in the top 5 anyway, but this is the battle we want to be focused on. There is Rebello for racing his life, the Portuguese driver, running in 6th position. He might go in front of Dixon by the time he comes out of the pits there. So Rebello goes back up to 4th place. Dixon should be back out on circuit, although he's behind Farkas now, who has struggled since we last spoke about him.
Yeah, Farkas was, one of the drivers to keep an eye on in the early stages, and then he's had that one incident, and we've not really seen too much of him since. So he's not had quite the recovery drive that Philippou's had. It'd be brilliant for Enzo Philippou if he can manage to win this race, but he's been overtaken now by DeBee, who's got past him in the later stages of the road course. He's lobbing it up the inside, though, into the bus stop chicane. He's gone down the inside, tries to get it stopped. Bit of contact between the two. They're both very lucky to continue on after that. But you're absolutely right. A little bit too much maybe by Philippou. We've seen it happen, but I don't think either of them gave each other enough room or momentum there to get that done.
That was too clumsy, and they're very lucky to keep their cars pointing the right way. Otherwise, that effectively would have handed it to Dixon on a plate, because he's going to try, I think, maybe try and go for a 2-stop if he can save enough fuel. But we are looking at the battle for the lead. As you can just see the yellow flag, that's because someone has come into the pits through the GT3, and DeBee and Philippou can get on with their battle once more. I don't think there's another car ahead of them for the time being. There's a yellow flag. I think someone's had a spin around the circuit. I don't know who it is yet. We'll find out in a moment who that is. Farkas, who's running in 5th place. It's not him who's had the spin. It's Tokar for GT3, who has gone round. He's probably done it at Le Mans this time, and he's stuck there for the time being. Actually, is Tokar. Has he had a connection problem, I wonder?
Yeah, it looks like he has actually. Just got the thumbs up from production, thank you guys. And yeah, unfortunately, the prettiest car in the field is now no longer in the field. Back to the Lamborghini of Philip Drace, right up behind Dravosikov. Shoe on the other foot indeed right now. All over the back of him. They're wiggling like mad as they go across the line. 45 minutes and change left to go in this race. Tokar still showing us off the circuit as he's had his issue. as sideways from Drovosikov in that first corner. But you know what? He's actually had a better exit of the corner than Drace did. That's incredible stuff. He really did a good job there to keep it tidy, considering how out of shape that car was. And you could see a moment ago as well, Tom, just coming back to Philippou and DeBee. Philippou was really throwing it deep into the horseshoe because I think he's got a little bit of red mist about him now. I'm intrigued by what happened because DeBee was ahead of him before they even got onto the banking. I'm wondering if there was a drama for one of them at any point on the infield section of the track, and that's why Philippou may be a bit riled up as Friede Braun has, well, thrown it into the grass again on the exit of that chicane. It seemed difficult in the DPIs, that.
Well, at least he's kept going this time around. He's only just made his second stop as well as Braun, so that won't do the tyres any good whatsoever. So he'll carry on his way as he is doing. DeBee and Philippou, 7/10 of a margin between the pair. But, you know, you never know what happens with Dixon later on. When these pit in later, I mean, it's a tough ask to go all the way to the end.
Yeah, absolutely. I think he's going to have to really nail it here. And at the end of the day, this is a timed race, as that is DeBee off the road from the race lead, just loses it on the exit of the horseshoe. He's been going deep into there, though, for the last few times that we've seen him. When he was chasing down Philippou earlier on, he was always deep into there, just pushing his luck a bit too much, and it's come back to bite him on the backside right now. And he's now dropped behind the race leader, and there's a good gap between the two of them as well. Here's Bence Farkas. He's got a little bit of damage on the front of that car as well. The nose of it is a little bit disjointed. You can see the number board wasn't quite level on that machine. So there's still plenty going on here, isn't there, Tom? There's loads of drivers really pushing in this late stage to maybe make up for what they lost earlier, and I think some of them get a bit overdone by the red mist here.
Well, he's determined to get back into it. It's Farkas around the outside of Rebello, heading towards turn number 6, and he'll just slingshot his way through. I don't think Rebello's going to fight this one now. He's just alone through here because he knows it's not worth fighting. Farkas, well, he just wants to get the hammer down now. He's lost too much time in having to save fuel there on these previous stint, and he's a long way behind Philippou, DeBee and Hakkinen.
Yeah, it's really opened up in some ways, the lead in the DPi class, but it's been fantastic to see. There's been so many drivers that have been, you know, early front runners that have dropped down, people that have had incidents in the opening stages and then recovered through the order. It's been a fantastic fairy tale in this DPi class. The GT3s have been a little bit more uniform, but at the same time, you know, there's certain characters that have risen to the top and been very entertaining. There's other drivers that have had races where no news has been good news and they've just kept themselves out of trouble. But that's the thing in an endurance race. You want a clean race out of this, and you don't always want to be the most exciting driver on track, because that often means that you've had some sort of drama or something go on. It's often my way of explaining that somebody's been a little bit clumsy, saying they're the most exciting driver on track, but we're not going to completely apply that here today. We've got Tim Roche in 7th place in GT3s. He's another one of those drivers that has not really featured too much on our screens in this one. His team name is I'd Like to Join Your Team, so it doesn't seem like his idea was successful, unfortunately. But you know what? He's doing a good job at the moment. He's inside the top 10 in the bigger of the two classes, the GT3 class, and he's got one DPi around him at the moment. No one else to worry about.
No, he'll just want to allow that to go through around the banking. 31 degrees of an angle the banks of this Daytona course. That was Caesar stepping down.
It just flies by. It's incredible, the speed of the DPi. Fantastic racing machine. Just looking at the positions gained on the left-hand side of the screen there, Ribeiro, 3rd place at the moment for him, ahead of Nicola Latkovsky in the Lamborghini. What a great drive by Ribeiro, though, up 7 positions. Started inside the top 10 and is now on his way to a podium result if it finishes this way. But still, you and I both know, Tom, a lot can happen in over 40 minutes of this race remaining. Yeah,
a lot can still change. We've seen a lot of connection issues involving drivers as well, so that could really turn on its head. DeBee's now dropping back from Philippou, unfortunately, so it looks like he's having to settle for 2nd place for the time being.
Sorry.
Yeah, okay. Hakkinen 3rd, Farkas, it's Rebello in 5th place in DPi, Drovosikov, Drace, Ribeiro, Nicola Latkovsky and Grotta in the top 5 in GT3. Got 14 remaining out of the 20 that have started in GT3, 11 out of 13 still going that started in DPi.
Absolutely, and to be fair, I mean, DeBee's had a ropey few laps with what's been going on with that incident and falling away from Philippou, but at the same time has had a great race all the same, because still 5 places gained to get into a podium spot, be battling for the lead as well. It's been a bit of a scarring race for Rokas DeBee, but in the overall picture, it's been a really, really solid drive so far. So we'll see how he continues on in the final stints of the race. They should have another pit stop as well, the DPIs, so there's a potential extra shake-up on the cards there. You can see on the left-hand side of your screen, they've pretty much all done 2 stops in the DPIs, all pretty much done 1 stop in the GT3s. It looks like Mosin has done 2, and right on cue, it's like DeBee could hear us, Tom. Into the pits comes the number 62 machine, and boy, that's a slow pit entry, isn't it?
This is much earlier than Punchas, because he's already done 2 stops in this race. I don't think we were quite expecting him to make a pit stop for the 3rd time now.
I wonder whether he's not seeing the entire stint out here and he's just filling up because he knows what he needs now to get to the end, and he's just filling it up and getting it done rather than doing the maths later on and risking that extra, that extra 1 litre or 2 litres that you might need. He's just saying, look, I know at this point there's a guaranteed number I need. I'm going to put that in now and go to the end, because some of these drivers, they may try and put as little fuel in as possible in this last stop. This is a timed race. I was going to actually make this point earlier on, but I've now finally come full circle because DeBee isn't driving off the circuit. But because this is a timed race, there's no guarantee at how many laps this is going to be. So as a driver, you need to compensate for that. Add an extra little bit of fuel in. It's like the aviation industry. You always just put a little bit more fuel in, because what's the harm of having more than less? You've just got to have that extra bit ready in case the race goes 1 lap longer than you expect. A lot of these drivers have calculators and things going on and amazing apps that figure out your fuel for you in different racing sims. Sometimes they can never be perfectly reliable because they are not there in the moment and calculating how long the race is going to be in terms of laps when it's timed like this.
Well, it goes back to what I was saying about how many laps we were expecting to see, and I said 88 according to our stats. So that makes sense, the fact that DeBee's coming for his stop now, and Dixon, well, he's in a different race anyway, because he went 6 laps longer than most of the leaders on his second stint. Well, on the overall strategy.
Yeah.
If he's going to do the 2 stop, which I highly doubt that that's what he's going to do, he's going to have to fuel save all the way to the end.
You're a betting man, Tom.
Am I a betting man? maybe during my uni days I probably was, but I've had to cut back on it for obvious reasons. But
I was going to say we could put some money on this, what Dixon's going to do, but let's not. I'll get traction to pay for it. It's fine. Philippau, Tom is very aggressively shaking his head from behind the monitor right now. Philippau, though, factually, we know Philippau still leads the race. 65 laps now, or he's on the 65th lap. He's still got company as well, actually, with... Is that Orban behind him? It is, isn't it? You can tell by the one headlight on his MX-5. MX-5? Where's that come from?
Mazda MX-5.
Mazda. Yeah. I just saw Mazda. Wow. I commentated on MX-5s the other day. That's probably why. We'll go for that. But we've got an interesting situation here with a lapped car behind. Now, is he going to push Philippau like he was pushing DeBee earlier on? Doesn't look like it. It's sort of as if he's just giving him the signal to say, you know what, I'm going to be here, but he's making his body language very clear. I'm not going to attack. I'm not going to affect your race, and that's the right thing to do, I think, as lap traffic in this scenario.
There's a yellow flag involving Rob Fan, who has gone round. Has he suffered the same problem as well, I think?
Fan's gone round.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Well, he stopped at a dangerous spot. We know that for a fact. In a very dangerous spot.
Very, very dangerous spot. And it's a good thing the car's bright yellow, to be honest, because it's a little bit easier to see. But that's just on the way to the second horseshoe, wasn't it?
Yeah. So I just got to hope no one runs into that, because that looks like at the horseshoe, doesn't it?
Well, you could wait until something hits the fan, I suppose. Because it quite literally will do in this case if that goes wrong. But we go on board now with Philippau, and you can see that, I was hoping to pick up on this earlier, the cockpit of these Mazdas and prototypes of this style, they are so cramped, they are so small. They have these tiny, tiny windows to look out of. When you're battling these things closely together, the peripheral vision you have is absolutely minimal. So that's why you can often rely on, you can see that fantastic camera, the rear view camera that they've got at the top of the cockpit there. I quite like the effect they've added on that as well, because it's not just a perfect image of the car behind, it's got almost like a sort of LCD screen effect to it. They've done that really, really well here in RaceRoom. That looks absolutely phenomenal. But it's just little details like that you can pick up on, and that's what modern day sims are great at, is the little details like that in and around the cars that you can appreciate as a driver in a 2.4-hour race.
Well, Rob Fan has not continued, so that's his race over.
Not too many rotations.
Yep. Enzo Philippau still going. He's got that DPi that's a lap down behind. That'll be Orban, won't it? So Orban, who's in 8th. There is Nikola Lukovsky 7th in GT3 in the pits for his final stop. So we are going to be seeing pit stops involving the GT3s in a moment. So it'll be interesting to see where Dravosikov, Drace and all that, find out what they're doing.
I wonder whether some of them are doing the same thing that we saw earlier, where one or two of them go a little bit early just to make sure that they've got that number, because at the end of the day it mitigates risk, doesn't it? It takes away the risk of running it right to the limit at the end of the race. If you've used a fuel number, you know what you've used, you know what you need in the car until the end. Why not do it now? Get it out of the way and then run the thing to the end. The weight of the car may change, sure, but we've seen that these GT3s can be so much more twitchy when they're light. It can be probably a little bit safer to have it heavier for a bit longer, just so it's a bit more predictable, perhaps.
Maybe so. We were looking at the top two of GT3.
Dravosikov sideways, is anything.
They're going through turns 2 and 3, as I want to call it, but the Americans call it turn 2.
That wiggly bit.
Yeah. But Dixon is behind DeBee in strategy. Well, as far as track is concerned.
Yeah.
So DeBee has the advantage over Dixon now. Another yellow flag in sector 3. And it's DeBee.
Oh, wow. He's put it around again at the chicane. It seems like he's one of the drivers, we mentioned them earlier, that was sort of pushing a little bit too hard for their stint. Like they were only able to get the ultimate pace out of the car across a stint when they were really pushing. And Rokas DeBee has been his worst enemy in some parts of this race here. He's had a few mistakes here and there. But I said at the top of the show, didn't I, Tom? Even in a 2.4-hour race, when there's just one driver behind the wheel here, you've got to concentrate so hard on stuff like this. A little bit of fatigue can kick in, especially on a Saturday night.
Yeah, and that's allowed Dixon through into 6th place.
Yep.
So that's changed his hands, hasn't it?
As you literally called it, it's changed rounds. So Dixon, he has now the upper hand on track, and for what he knows, potentially an upper hand on strategy. We'll have to see whether that comes to fruition in the end. We're on lap 68 now, so we should get roughly 20 laps to go, you reckon, Tom?
Yeah, I said 88 at the beginning of the show.
I'm just checking because my maths is rubbish.
Well, We've got another car in the pits now. We'll find out in a minute. It's Nikola Lakovsky, who apparently is in the pits for speeding in the pit lane. So drive-through penalties, as far as we're concerned, are something like 40 seconds, which you have to.
It's usually around that sort of time. And in a lot of regulations in motorsport, it tends to be applied in the same way when it comes to the sim sort of counterpart to it. So unfortunately, not only does Latkovsky have to crawl down the pit lane, which as we've seen is incredibly slow compared to the speed they're usually doing on the banking, he also has to sit still for quite a long time as well and head back out onto the track after having a proverbial slap on the wrists.
Well, he's got his work cut out now. At least he's still inside the top 10 in the GT3 class. A number of drivers are like 2 laps down in GT3 compared to Javotsikov, Drace, Ribeiro and Grotta. That's because some of the leaders haven't quite come in for their second stops yet. So they'll go back just 1 lap behind those. So we're not too far away from Javotsikov, Drace and Ribeiro coming for their for their last stops, and this is going to be interesting to see how much fuel they decide to put in compared to each other. Hakkinen in the pits for his last stop in DPi.
Really did well there, actually, to get it stopped just in time, or at least it looked like he did. We might have to wait and see if he gets done for speeding, but Turkka Hakkinen, since the initial opening stint, he's been a little bit quiet. He's just sort of been occasionally filtering in and out of where other people's strategies lie. He's had a few position swaps here and there, but that's simply just for other cars pitting around him. Here's Philip Drace. God, it makes me hungry. As he chases down Dravosikov. And now, to be fair, Dravosikov has proven that, we said it earlier, is his pace better, and that's why he's so close to Drace, he could go by and then get away. Before they get to any of the slipstream parts of the circuit, Dravosikov has always got a gap and has got an advantage. So it shows that it isn't just down to the slipstream that kept him there. He's got a significant pace advantage over Drace, I'd say. But it's now the slipstream that's keeping it together.
Yep, sticking together like super glue, aren't they? Hakkinen is leaving the pits now in a moment. He is leaving the pits there. You can just see those 2 GT3s coming through. Hakkinen won't want to be stuck behind these 2. Well, he's going to have to be stuck behind. Norms has had a spin in the GT3. That's at turn 1, and yeah, he's at the back anyway. He's had a race to forget. He'll just want this race to be over, doesn't he?
Yeah, absolutely. The BMW not looking too fancy either now. The front end of that car very biffed in, much like the Shell branded BMW that we saw earlier on.
Yeah, Yeah, that does not look normal, does it?
Yeah.
Or norms there.
No, that's not the norm. But you can see now he's trying to get out of the way of Ribeiro, and by doing so, he's actually got in the way of Ribeiro a little bit through the kink. The Audi lick of flame from the exhaust as well. Looks fantastic. But yeah, that BMW's not behaving itself now. He's been shaky into both of the horseshoes that he's got to here. That front left has definitely taken a big old whack and is not behaving. So he may bring that back into the pit lane. But Ribeiro, you know, still holding on to that podium position. I said earlier he'd gained 7 spots from where he started, 10th on the grid. And again, he's had, well, his rival from the race, which was it Mikovic earlier on? It was, wasn't it, in the Lamborghini? Those two were stuck to each other like glue earlier. And yeah, Mikovic is out.
And off from Filipao.
Filipao was thinking, oh, these boys are getting boring now. Let's give them something to talk about. He's just lobbed it off the track. Rebello has just been... Oh, no, he's just come into the pits. Apologies. Rebello just came into the pit lane there. He lit up yellow for a sec. Hakkinen goes back into 3rd place. But yeah, Filipao... It's strange, isn't it? He's had probably the most excursions off the circuit out of all the DPIs now, but he still somehow leads this race.
Well, Filipao is... Well, Hakkinen's done his last stop now, so you have to say, thanks to Filipao's spin, you have to say Hakkinen's the favourite to win this, you would think.
I mean, in terms of how much time they've spent on the circuit, yeah, definitely. But even Hakkinen's had a moment, so yeah, it's anyone's to call, really, at this point. There may be quite a gap for the lead, but I think Filipao's definitely got the outright pace from one lap to the next, but it's the consistency and the keeping it on the road bit that he's not shown the most consistency in. It sounds brutal, but it's just the way it's gone so far, isn't it? Mm-hmm. It's been a very, very interesting race for that. As again, DeBee just pushing too hard into
Completely
every
missed
corner.
His braking point.
Yeah, he's really trying to lob it in, and I think the car is just... It's obviously not giving him what it gave him earlier on in the race. So he's not able to get the most out of it, and he still seems to be driving as if it does. You know what I mean? He's driving it as if it's a brand new machine, as if it's not done.
Erratically, that's the problem.
2 hours and 10 minutes of race.
Yeah. Well, let's see if he can go to the next slow speed corner. I just wonder whether there's something on his brake pedal that isn't quite operating as well as it should be, but we'll see how he gets on. There's another yellow flag. Oh, that might be something coming into the pits.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, so he goes through here not too shabby, so DeBee will just want to make sure he goes through turn 1 reasonably well next time without going too far off.
Oh, it's a fan favourite, Tom.
Van der Broek.
Rune van der Broek. It's not broke yet. He's still managing to survive. 8th place in the GT3s at present with just under half an hour to go. And you know what? He's sort of kept himself out of trouble for the last bit of this race so far. He's got a gap of about 7 seconds back to Nikolai Latkovsky after that penalty earlier on. And still, after all this time, after nearly 2 hours of this race, Tom, our leaders in GT3 are separated by less than a car length. This has been great.
Yeah, this is absolutely thrilling to watch. And Ribeiro, 12 seconds behind. He'll hope something crops up involving these two, because the more I see these two gluing together, the more I think that something could crop up later on in the final couple of minutes or something. So we'll wait and see how that plays out.
Well, you never know, do you? I mean, at the end of the day, look at how many times you've seen a race decided in the final lap, or someone's made a mistake on the final lap, or an engine's gone or something. It's, you know, nobody is immune from mistakes, nobody is immune from bad luck in motorsport, and there is no set time when any of it happens either. It's all still to play for in this final stint.
Looking at the gaps in the way, Dixon's ahead of DeBee. Dixon's trying to go to the end. Well, you have to say Hakkinen's already stopped. That's that big margin over Dixon. So it goes back to what I was saying. I think Hakkinen's probably the favourite to win it now, but it's just when Filipao and Farkas come in for their last stops, how aggressive will they be on their last stints?
Yeah.
That's the big £1 million question that we're waiting to see.
And the thing is as well, what are they going to do fuel-wise? Are they going to take any risks and take just as much as they might need, or are they going to compromise and take that extra lap? Are they going to try and save a second or two in the pit lane, you know, for the potential risk of not having enough fuel to make it to the end? We'll have to see, because to them, that might seem like a risk that's worth it. To us up here in the commentary box, definitely not. I'd say give it an extra lap of fuel. You know, add that tiny bit in. It's better to have a little bit more than not enough. That's really good traffic management there from Filipao. It was a little bit late into the chicane, but at the end of the day, the Lamborghini knew that it was potential for him to go to it, and he's gone for it down the inside. That's really, really good stuff from Filipao. The Porsche as well, staying out of the way. I must say, actually, Tom, there's been almost no moments in this race where the traffic has been a major issue and we've seen silly incidents. They've been doing really well at managing it all, haven't they?
Yeah, we've got another driver in the pits now. I think it's from GT3.
Yeah, Ribeiro.
Ribeiro in from 3rd place. What is he going to be thinking? Well, he's going to try and do an undercut on Dravozikov and Drace. He'll fall behind Grota. He'll fall behind Gitchi. I don't know where he's going to rejoin there. That's the problem. But he's going to have to go like... I mean, he can effectively just floor it to the end.
Yeah, and that's the best thing. This is what I was saying before about taking a pit stop a little bit early, making sure you've at least got enough fuel in to get to the end. It just gives you the confidence then to just push the car to the end. You're not then watching the fuel numbers every single lap and wondering how late you can leave it, how little fuel you can put in, what fuel you can save. Treat it like a sprint race now. Get the pit stops done and out the way early, tick those boxes, get enough fuel in the car and rag it to the end. Make sure that you can just push that car to the flag. And like I said, with the weight of the car being increased a little bit, maybe it's more predictable, maybe it's easier to manage, it's a little bit more consistent rather than it being all twitchy and really lightweight for much longer in the race. So I think these drivers now, they are realising they've taken the time, nearly 2 hours of it now, to figure out where they're placed in this race, who they're fighting with, and now they're thinking, right, big picture is coming into view. The light at the end of the tunnel is definitely there.
Yep, I would say so as well. Drace still stuck behind the slipstream there, and they are both in the same manufactured car, albeit in different liveries. Drace sending one to the outside, but let's have a look at Christian Orban, who was towards the top end of the field on the grid, but has dropped back since. He's fallen well and truly out of contention. Drace is still behind Dravozikov, and it doesn't look like he's going to be changing that anytime. But it looks like Orban had to fight his way through there. Good on him, but that could have ended so differently.
Yeah, he didn't need to do that, did Orban? He could have sat behind both of them at that point. He's not fighting... or is he fighting DeBee for position? Yeah, he is actually. Yeah, it's all of a sudden. I didn't realise he was that close to fighting DeBee, sorry, because I thought earlier, let's not forget, he was pushing DeBee around and he was a lap down on him.
Yeah.
So he wasn't needing to push him. So I saw DeBee's car and thought, well, at least he's a lap ahead. They definitely didn't need to fight through the GT3s that hard, though.
Sorry, he's rapidly closing on DeBee. I wonder if DeBee's picked up a problem. Maybe we could have a look at his steering and just maybe look. Well, we don't know how much fuel he's got on board as DeBee, but his pace is nowhere near what it was earlier. No, he's dropped back from what it was, and looking at his gap to where Gra is, the gap between Gra and DeBee is 12 seconds.
Yeah, it's definitely not been the sort of final stint for him. But let's not forget that Orban still needs to do another pit stop compared to DeBee. DeBee's done 3 of them now. Potentially came in early to get the car in a predictable place, but we'll see. It definitely looks like on the lap or 2 preceding this that Orban has been flying up to the back of that blue and pink machine. We'll see whether they manage to catch up completely before the end, but Orban at any moment now could dive down the pit lane. It's Filipao leading Farkas, Hakkinen, Gra and DeBee as things stand. In the GT3s, it's Dravozikov, Drace, Grota is doing really well in 3rd position, actually ahead of Roche and Mosin. Those 3 drivers, actually 3rd, 4th and 5th in the GT3s. Drivers we've not really mentioned throughout this race, are they, Tom? They've been very much under the radar, but still getting the job done in the meantime.
Absolutely. And there is Christian Grota. He is the man from Norway. He is running in 3rd place. Only made 1 stop, though. So we are expecting him in the pits again before this race is over. Dravozikov still ahead of Drace by 0.4 of a second at the timing of speaking. Someone's pulled off actually at the Le Mans. Oh no, he's coming into the pit lane. I thought he pulled off.
Yeah, it looked like he came off at the chicane for a second there.
Yeah.
Let's not forget as well, Mosin is the highest placed driver that has done 2 pit stops so far, but he's still quite a way off our leaders, so he's not going to be threatening them just yet. But I think potentially could get ahead of Grota, who we look at now, and then Roche as well. Those 2 Lamborghinis will be pushing their hardest in the latter stage, but Mosin, having all of his pit stops done, will be thinking, right, pedal to the metal now, right until the end of this race. It's been thrilling though, loads of pit stops and loads of changes for position in lots of classes, and it's been great to see that the windows of these pit stops have been opened up, haven't they, Tom? There's not just been everybody coming in at the same time every single time. They've sort of spread it out a little bit, tried different strategies, and kept us thinking and guessing.
Well, we've got a speeding penalty for Thomas Ribeiro.
Oh, no.
And that's hurt his race horribly. He was running in 3rd place before he came in for his latest stop, and that drive-through, which he'll have to serve, will send him down the honour. That's a terrible shame because he could have been coming away with as the race victor. You never know later on.
Yeah.
And that has hurt him badly. And
Well, he was the victor out of the non-Lamborghinis, at least, at this stage. The Lamborghini, I mean, it's been a great advert for the Lamborghini this race. Let's not forget, it's the first Lamborghini to come to RaceRoom as a downloadable car. It's part of the DTM 2024 pack. It is the full name is the Lamborghini Huracan GT3 Evo 2. It's the second iteration of the Evo version. Lamborghini have always been fine-tuning the cars. They always look very similar, unlike the Audi, which has a very different rear wing to the previous one, as Dravosikov and Drace in the pits from the lead now. Tom, final stint.
Yep. What will Grota decide to do? How far can he go compared to Drace and Dravosikov? Or will he think, do you know what, I probably need to pit in as well? Ribeiro has completed his speeding penalty now, as far as I know. And I think he's done his speeding penalty, but he's behind Gitchy.
Yeah,
now.
it says he's been in the pits three times.
Yeah,
So
that's his.
Those
penalty.
numbers are hard to read from here, though. I'll give you that.
It's different. I think between a 1 and a 2 you can recognise, but between 2 and 3 is a bit more tricky.
I mean, he might have been in the pits 8 times. You never know. He's just having a really, really good run. It's Thomas Ribeiro. Can't blame. We can't rely on my eyesight. Flipping out. But no, Grota now into the pits, the Norwegian, and Dravosikov continues on and has Drace less than a second behind, even after the final stops.
Two-way fight for the win now in GC3. Dravosikov and Drace. Grota might, if he's lucky, I don't think he'll get out in front of Gitchy and Ribeiro. So it looks like Gitchy might be able to hold on, but he's got Ribeiro looming behind. He'll be raging inside that crash helmet, knowing that he had to serve that drive-through.
If he's wearing one.
Yeah, if he is wearing a helmet, and he had to wear that. We've got Filippo in the pits now, which is no surprise because we expected him to come in for his last stop. He's gone 25 laps, I think, on his latest stint. Varka stays out for the time being. What does Hakkinen decide to do? He's done his last stop already, and he can go to the end, but Filippo's tyres will have more grip in that.
Yeah, potentially. I'm not seeing how many of them have been changing tyres each time. A lot of in a lot of endurance cars like this, they are very well suited to double stinting, sometimes even triple stinting tyres. GT3 cars in particular, I know in the recent running of the Daytona 24, in the nighttime hours, if you're kind enough to the tyres and you don't have any dramas, GT3 cars can almost quad stint tyres sometimes. So as long as these guys are looking after them, it doesn't seem too hot out there, does it, at the moment? It's quite overcast at present. It started the race a little bit sunnier, so I'm thinking if the track temperatures aren't too high, these guys might get away with a double stint. Here comes Filippo now, out of the pit lane. Just skates along that wall, minds the humongous sausage curves on the left, and that's his final stint done. He is behind Hakkinen by some margin as well, 15 seconds. More than that, actually.
He's 25.
Yeah.
He's 25.
I told you my maths was rubbish.
Yeah. Well, there's Farkas who's due into the pits before this race is over, as far as we know. But he's going to have to... Filippo's got to go like clockwork if he wants to win this one.
Yeah.
He'll have to... If he's going to win the race, he's got to overtake Hakkinen on track now.
And it's going to be a very difficult task to do so, because Hakkinen has shown that when he's keeping it tidy and keeping it together, he can be just on the same pace as Filippo. And at the end of the day, with a gap that big and just 17 minutes left to do it, I'm not sure Filippo can muster that unless there's more dramas written in this race for Hakkinen. It's Farkas still leading the way. Again, another driver that we hadn't seen too much of since his early dramas. We look now at Tomas Ribeiro all over the back of the Lamborghini, and to be fair, Gitchy's running him up towards the fence on the right-hand side. He doesn't need to do it, and now Ribeiro closes in on the brakes, but that was naughty from Gitchy. He didn't have to do that there, Tom. You could argue that he was getting out of the way for the DPi going through, but that car has got more than enough capability to get around the outside. I'm worried that Ribeiro is going to send it here. He's got it stopped at the apex, though, to be fair to him. Back down the inside, he's opened up the steering a little bit. He's run wide, though. Gitchy's now going to be on the right-hand side as they head towards the kink.
He should have the high ground on the exit there. He's got the left-hander of Dogleg, I think it's called, that they're going through. And yeah, he's as I said, they got a slight nudge. That's a little bit naughty from Gitchy there. He wants to make it as difficult as possible for him. I'll be a little bit sneaky by running into him and trying to make it as plausible as possible without making it too obvious that he's causing the collision there. But Ribeiro at least is disposed of him now, but Gitchy was a little bit too erratic with his driving.
Yeah, like I say, I think the main thing there was running him up to the wall on the start-finish straight. They're going around a curve at the end of the day where, as a driver on the outside, you wouldn't expect to be put against the barrier like that. And I think Ribeiro did well, because he could have really had the red mist about him and lobbed it up the inside and made a clumsy manoeuvre to get back by. But he put it up the inside, he got it stopped to the apex, he did everything fairly from what we could see from the onboard, and now Gitchy is the driver that has to try and come back at him here, and he'll be in the slipstream. And I mean, I wouldn't want Ribeiro, as Farkas comes into the pits, I wouldn't want Ribeiro to give him the same treatment back, but you wouldn't blame Ribeiro for trying the same trick here if Gitchy gets alongside him.
Well, we've got a pit stop over involving Bent Farkas, and that allows Turkka Hakkinen to take over the lead on Merritt. Where will he get out? Well, we know he'll get out in front of DeBee, there's no question about that. It's just how close will it be compared to Phillip out. Now, we know Farkas won't need to put so much fuel in there. There's no need for him to put that much fuel in. There goes Ribeiro, still fighting out with Gitchy. Cleaner this time. Ribeiro holds on for now.
Yeah, he had to get back on that racing line mighty quick then, didn't he?
Yeah. Well, I can say Filippo's through on Farkas, so Filippo into second place on track. Farkas will rejoin in third. But Ribeiro and Gitchy are refusing to leave each other alone. Ribeiro won't be liking this. He'll want to be going after Grota for the final podium position in GT3. There was a little switch there through dogleg, and he lives to fight another day there. So Ribeiro should have that move covered.
Yeah, it looks like he's doing all right here as Ribeiro, and Gitchy a little bit more all over the place in that midfield section, but he's now sort of tidying it up a bit. He's tucking in behind the Audi as into the pits comes Orban. There's a lot of smoke and dust and all sorts there, so I'm not sure if Orban's had some sort of drama on the way into the pits. It'd be traditionally Christian Orban-esque if he has had some sort of drama on the way into the pits. He's even made that exciting. Here's Turkka Hakkinen. So far, touchwood 13 hasn't been unlucky for Hakkinen. He's been running his race since his early little debacle, because he only had a little spin, didn't he? He didn't have any contact with the barriers or anything. Turkka Hakkinen has been keeping himself to himself here and has done a fantastic job with it.
We'll go back to the battle between Ribeiro and Gitchy, because they are continuing to swap places, corner by corner, never mind lap by lap. And we're right on board with Ribeiro, who has got Gitchy right behind. I think Gitchy can afford to go for the move here. Won't really want to bunt drive, won't want to hang around anymore now. I think it's too late in the race to be doing that. But round the outside goes Gitchy on the front stretch. Does Ribeiro leave him room? Makes it as robust as possible.
He's come up the road. You can't blame him for coming up the road. Gitchy did it to him earlier. He just doesn't want to hit that left rear corner and turn him. It's robust, but you know what? I think that's a case of give what you got, and Ribeiro defends that move really well.
He did, and the continuing to go toe-to-toe round the road section here. There's Tim Roche, who is waiting in the wings to take advantage of these two, should they come together. So Tim Roche absolutely coming alive in this race, and there is a DPi further behind, so they need to watch out for that DPi that's coming through now, because if that gets involved in a collision, then there could be a few problems later on.
You could say Tim is Roche to the occasion right now, in sixth position, waiting for that top five. Production head in hands, love it. That's why I'm here. Gitchy still, to be fair, he's chilled it out. You know, that move around the outside wasn't too robust. That's a little bit impatient from the DPi. That's our race second place driver. That's Philippou, isn't it?
Yeah.
Trying it. I've been so used to seeing Philippou in the lead of the race that, yeah, I almost called it. He's not hanging about.
Well, he's not gaining time on Hakkinen.
No, he's not.
He's losing ground on him, which is surprising, given he's on a newer set of rubber compared to Hakkinen.
It depends if he's changed, though. We don't know if he's changing every stop. That's the thing. I wondered if the DPIs would double stint at all. And we've just had news that Orban is not finishing this race, unfortunately. So I'm afraid, with 12 minutes to go, Orban has called it quits there, which is a shame.
Yeah, and that's apparently he's been disqualified. It's shown as saying DQ on there. So I
wonder if it's because he didn't have both headlights on.
Maybe, or whether he's violated track limits too many times throughout the race.
Well, to be fair, yeah, he had a really dodgy looking pit entry a moment ago, and there was a lot of smoke and everything there. So I wonder if that's had something to do with it, whether it's considered really unsafe. That's not too unsafe from Gitchy as he throws it up the inside of the Audi of Ribeiro, who has to get back on the brakes, trail brakes it into there. Roche is in a fantastic position here. It's funny how that white livery makes the Lamborghini look twice the size of the little blue and black one, but still, these cars all together sound incredible. Three 5.2 litre V10s, they share the same engine and pretty much the entire same chassis do these Audi R8s and Lamborghini Huracans. Pretty much the same car, just one's made of squares, one's made of triangles. And right now, Gitchy, well, he's in the sandwich at the minute. and he won't want to be there because now he's in the horrible position, isn't he, Tom, where he's trying to attack a car while also trying not to compromise himself too much and watch the car behind as well.
They'll be coming up behind another GT3 that's a lap down on them, and that'll be another obstacle which they'll have to overcome. We've got over 10 minutes to go. We're on lap 81 for the DPi leader, lap 74 for the GT3 leader. And a lot can still change between now and the checkered flag. There's no question about that. Hakkinen started his 82nd lap, and he's over half a minute clear of Enzo Filippo. And I have to say, if Hakkinen does win the race, well, you have to say he deserves it, because despite the mistakes he has had, he's done remarkably well to bounce back from it. And I think that brings the best out of a racing driver, and that tells me something about him. In situations where things don't exactly go the way you wish it to, you just rebound from it. And that brings the best out of a racing driver, in my opinion.
Yeah, I always say similar with the fact that, you know, it's not the mistake or the incident that you happened that people always remember. It's how you bounce back from it, how you responded to it, what you did as a result, as we go 3 wide for third position in the GT3s. And that is contact between Gitchy and the Audi of Ribeiro. I don't know whether it was Ribeiro coming up or Gitchy going down to try and stay away from Roche, but it was just not going to work. I don't think Roche needed to be there and do that. You could argue he put them in the situation they didn't want to be in. You could argue Gitchy went down, Ribeiro came up. But unfortunately, there has been a huge shunt on the start-finish straight. And to be fair, I think Roche is possibly the luckiest one in all of that, with the fact that Ribeiro came up the circuit across him and didn't take him out as a result. The 2 Lamborghinis incredibly lucky.
I know we won't get a replay for it, but I'd want to have a look at that again, Chaz, because that was really clumsy. And I just wonder whether Gitchy moved across when he shouldn't have done, or whether Ribeiro didn't leave him room. Arthur Gra, the latest to have a spin, but at least
on the grass.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Well, we've got 9 minutes to go, so let's see if we can get through the remainder of this without any more punts on drivers. Tim Roche in 5th place. He did I'll have to say, he did very well not to get caught up in that melee, because that could have been all 3 of them out, and there'd have been some discussions afterwards. And so Filippo continuing to drop back, and it looks like he's consigned to a 2nd place finish.
Yeah, he's certainly conceded that one, I think. There's no point in pushing extra hard at this point. If anything's going to happen to Hakkinen, it's got to be pretty catastrophic for him to lose the race lead as a result. Roche still all over the back of Gitchy now, and well, these two with 2 cars in the battle as opposed to having 3, they'll be a lot more comfortable. But it's a shame to see Ribeiro's race end like that, because he's done so well in that Audi to fight amongst these Lamborghinis. Sure, it's all GT3 cars. They are all very, very similar performance despite their different characteristics. Roche actually finds a gap down the inside of Gitchy. Fair play to him. That's brave to do, considering what Gitchy's done earlier on. And Gitchy, again, this is not the best display from Gitchy in his defensive driving here. You can argue that it's Italian flamboyance. I don't even know if he is Italian. No, he's Hungarian, so that makes it even worse. Just turn the Italian flag on its side, it's fine. But Gitchy is, well, he's not making the finest example of how to defend a position here, and Roche did nothing wrong there.
Well, that was naughty again from Gitchy, so that I wouldn't be at all surprised to see an inquiry afterwards of Gitchy's driving there. One with Ribeiro, which perhaps more than one occasion with him, and now this one with Tim Roche. So I think Gitchy will not be going away from this race trouble-free, I would have thought.
Yeah, we'll have to wait and see. We'll obviously check out the RaceRoom forums and the website and wherever they manage all of the appeals and so on. We'll see. But still, we can't ignore the fact that it's been an entertaining race so far, regardless of whether that's at the benefit of the drivers or not. It's been mighty entertaining from up here. Jesper is coming back on to the track, and he's had
off at turn 1.
Big old plume of smoke down there at the first corner, and he returns onto the circuit again. But Roche now, I wonder how much red mist there's going to be here. He's seen an incident or two with Gitchy. He knows that he's caught up with him because of the intense battling with Ribeiro earlier on. But now, I'd be scared if I was Roche trying to get around that Lamborghini.
Well, if I was Roche, I'd try and distract Gitchy in any way possible. Go left to begin with, make a dummy, come off the accelerator and go
and then
right.
Climb in the wall.
Well, no, not that, but make him run into a mistake at turn 1. That's what I would do. Go left first, then pull out, and then go right, and then force him into a mistake basically into turn 1.
You could have used that DPi as a cue ball as well, put that into him as well.
Yeah.
But no, you're absolutely right. At this point, all he can do, other than a big, late breaking move down the inside, is just go one way or the other. Just fill the mirrors. Just be a big distraction. At the end of the day, he's in a bright white Lamborghini. There are not many more distracting cars to have in your rearview mirror. And Gitchy, sure, he's got the distraction of that fantastic sounding V10 behind him anyway. But look, there you go. Gitchy's gone deep. And Roche is really respectful there, to be fair. Gitchy uses a lot of the road, but Roche, he could have run him wide. He could have just tapped the back of that car and said, see you in a bit. But no, amongst everything, there's been fantastic respect on show all race here. I think tempers have flared a little bit towards the end here, or whether that's just different driving standards and what the drivers expect from one another. But yeah, Roche has done a good job there to not make contact, and this is looking like it's going to be a great fight to the end. Just 5.5 minutes to go now, Tom.
He needs to surprise him. He's got to surprise him from somewhere. Maybe turn one perhaps isn't the best place to get the overtake done because it's too obvious. He'll have to do it at one of the horseshoes. He'll have to do it either at the first one, which is the Rodriguez International Horseshoe, or the second one, which is the West Horseshoe. Either of those two is where he's going to have to pull off a move at. But then he's given the toe on the stretches. That's the issue.
Yeah, I think it's potentially going to be down to corner exit rather than corner entry. You know, if you can just focus, try and put him off, like you say, sell a dummy, and then just hopefully send him a bit deep into the corner. Focus on your own line, get a decent exit, get the run, maybe even down towards the kink, then down the inside into the second horseshoe. You can set it up using that infield section. But he's now back into the slipstream, and as they head round towards the start-finish line once more for the 76th time, these guys are just about to go on to their 77th lap, you can see Roche has backed off, look.
Yep.
He's decided to lift a little bit. He's saying, I'm not playing these games with you, Gitchy. I'm not playing them. I'm just going to sit here, and I'm just going to wait. And it's just all about filling mirrors.
If he can take a slightly wider line than Gitchy into turn one, he might get the exit he needs to just try and pull out alongside or send an absolute dive bomb into one of the horseshoes. So he may be too far back this time around. He needs to make Gitchy outbrake himself here. Gitchy reads that though. He did very well to slow the car down.
Yeah, I think he needs to try and set it up at the first one and get the run down there into the kink, because it's good that the slipstream keeps you together there, but you've got a long old run before the next braking zone, and it's not too long a run like the banking around the edge of the circuit where the slipstream comes into too much of an effect. Now here is our overall race leader, Turkka Häkkinen, catching up on these guys as well. This could be quite interesting, but it looks like he's going to get to them on the banking here, and he's just going to out-accelerate them, so I don't think this is going to cause too much of a drama. No,
I don't think it'll mitigate anything either. So I expect Häkkinen to just pull away
just
here.
Driven off.
Yeah, just drive around them. Don't get involved in what they're doing. And there is Ilya Dravosikov, the man from Switzerland, in the GT3 lead and on course for victory. A couple of seconds clear, but it must feel like a very big lead at this stage now. He just needs to just take it easy from here on in. But there is a back marker ahead of him. Same class, but laps down on them, so he'll want to try and negotiate that if he can and not allow Philip Drace to close in. There is Tim Roche, the man from Germany, behind Gitchy, who has been the centre of controversy, has to be, for the last 20 minutes or so.
Absolutely. It's been an interesting end to the race, so it's settled down a little bit as drivers realised where they were at, and in comparison to the other drivers around them, they knew where their strategies lined up compared to others. And I think it's been an interesting race for that, because the strategy's been important, but also driver fatigue and driver persistence has come into play in these late stages as well. And it's quite good to see that the conditions sort of reflect that as well. It seems like there's a bit more of a sunset vibe about it here in Florida. Yeah.
Well, we've got a yellow flag, and Enzo Filippo has spun. He's gone off at Le Mans again.
He likes it there, doesn't he?
Well,
there is Dravosikov, GT3 leader. Thank you, Sunshine, fellow yellow car enthusiast.
Does he see him? Yes, he does. Yeah.
I'd be surprised if he didn't, but Dravosikov didn't lose a massive start again, Chess. He didn't leave a massive amount of room down the inside there for him to get back past him. Maybe he wasn't expecting him to suddenly get back up to speed that quickly. But there's Bence Farkas, and he's not too Farkas behind. No, doesn't work. Stop it.
Well, Farkas will be encouraged by that spin from Filippo. We're now only a couple of... My goodness me. He's not hanging around, is he? Well, to be fair, in that sense, you can't blame him, but you can't run people off the road like that if it means closing down on your rival to get through.
I think Dravosikov did very well there, and Farkas was just... I don't know what he was trying. He wanted to get the move done sooner rather than later, but... Wow, that was a little bit much, that, to say the least.
Yeah, you can't do that. It doesn't matter what situation you're in. You can't just someone at the inside from that far back and expect the car ahead of you to just read into
No,
that.
no.
He did very well, Dravozikov, to read into that because he knew that the DPi was going to be later on the brakes compared to him.
Yeah.
So well done to him for being aware of that. But even so, he shouldn't really have to get out of the way like that.
No. At the end of the day, we've said it through most of the stream. You want the GT3 cars and the slower of the two classes, regardless of what class you're in, to always be the one that's the more predictable. Stay on your racing line, make the car with more capability do the work. At the end of the day, the DPIs are so nimble, they're so fast, so good on the brakes. And there is the mistake that Roche wanted. Gitchy runs wide at turn 1. And to be honest, to say that's the mistake that Roche wanted, I think a few people will agree that that's the move they wanted as well.
Yeah.
As Roche goes through, that'll have sent a few cheers around.
He's gone too deep, though. He's gone too deep into the whole
stream. Go on, I'll do it and all. Oh, no. Roche, what are you doing? Well, he's keeping it interesting. There's 30 seconds, less than 30 seconds now, left to go in this race. Apparently, we have a white flag that in American motorsport means final lap. Gitchy's gone
naughty.
deep into.
That's not on.
I don't think he was trying to do anything. I think he's just missed his braking. But we've got a white flag, which in American motorsport means last lap.
I want to go into Turka Hakkinen in a moment because he's about to complete his final lap right now. If we can get have a look at Hakkinen now, we do. There he is, out of Le Mans for the last time in this race. Despite the mistakes he has had, he's built up the margin, and it's a well-deserved victory for Turka Hakkinen.
And rightly so, Tom. 88 laps in the books. Turka Hakkinen rounds the final corner, and for the first ranked event in 2025 here on RaceRoom, he wins the 2.4 hours of Daytona in fantastic style in the DPi class in the Mazda DP24. Very, very well done to Hakkinen. Filipao is going to be about a minute back. But what about this, though, Tom? This battle in the GT3 class for P4.
I don't mean to be biased, but I do hope that Tim Roche holds on to this because
you couldn't be more biased with that sentence.
Well, I'm not. I'm usually impartial, but judging by what we've seen, as far as the nature of this battle has been going on,
Tim doesn't want to squeeze him because Gitchy will put him in the wall.
Well, it'll go to the stewards' room afterwards because I'd imagine Ribeiro will have something to say on that. Well, he's done it there.
Gitchy's done it, and he gets 4th position. Now, where's Dravozikov in the Lamborghini? He's also coming onto the back straight, actually, so he's almost a full lap down on where our race leader was, so he's got a bit of time to savour the moment.
Well, he's done a superb job, hasn't he?
Oh, absolutely,
with the strategy. I know he's had luck along the way with connection problems involving others, but
you've got to be in it to win it.
You've got to be in it to win it, yeah, all the way. Survival of the fittest, and it's a well-deserved GT3 win for Dravozikov. He may be only a couple of seconds clear of Philip Drace, but it's not how you win it, it's the fact you win it.
Yeah, absolutely, and he's been there throughout the whole race, near the front of the pack. He's battled through some of the fastest drivers in the field, and he's now become the fastest driver in the field and takes the race victory in the 2.4 hours of Daytona here on RaceRoom. It's been absolutely fantastic, hasn't it, Tom? So much going on through the entire field in both classes there to really keep us on our toes.
Absolutely sensational, Chaz. And what a brilliant event we have been treated to today. And hopefully we'll see more of that in the events to come. But there is the race result. Turka Hakkinen taking the victory ahead of Enzo Filippo and Bence Varkas completing the top 3 in DPi. DeBee was 4th ahead of Bo Dixon, and it's Rebello, Braun, Gras and Ontis were the last to finish. Rob Van retired along with Rui Felipe. Christian Michel, who was running towards the front as well, he could have been coming away with the win.
Remember him?
And Orban excluded, presumably for violating track limits on too many occasions. In the GT3 class, Ilya Dravozikov, the race winner ahead of Philip Drace, and Christian Grote, the Norwegian, completing the podium places in that class. Gitchy ahead of Roche, but I'm sure that'll be far from being the conclusion of that battle, given the collisions that Gitchy's been involved in. So we look down the rest of the order. There is Van der Broek, Sen, Miss Van Vollevelde, Norms, were the rest of those to finish. Thomas Ribeiro retired before the end. Harris, Toka, and a few others we also lost earlier on.
Yeah, it's a bit of a shame to have lost that many drivers in the throughout the race. But you know what? I think overall driving standards were fantastic. The battling was great. Traffic management was interesting, and the strategies kept us thinking all throughout, didn't they? Yeah.
Well, it's been a phenomenal race. I mean, a little bit controversial at times, I think it's safe to say, because we want it to be fair racing.
Yeah.
Obviously all the way through, but all the way through, it was it was fun to watch, and I'm really looking forward to see RaceRoom have to offer as well as traction.
Yeah, absolutely. And thank you very much, Tom, for being a part of this with me. We've been Chaz Draycott and Tom Cairns. It's been fantastic fun here today. We hope you've enjoyed the broadcast and enjoyed the show. Thank you very much to Traction for having us in their studio for this event. Thanks also to the wonderful people at RaceRoom for putting it on and having us here as the commentary team. Don't forget to subscribe to both channels for more in the future. Thank you very much for watching, and we hope to see you again very, very soon.